Hello and welcome back to the second half of the R.I.S.E Conference Punjab edition. I move on to our next session, which is a panel presentation. I invite Mr. Girish Gopalakrishnan, Head of Product at QS Solutions, to initiate the presentation. Hello and welcome back to our second half of the R.I.S.E Conference. Over to you, Mr. Girish. I move on to our next session, which is a panel presentation.
Hello all.
I invite Mr. Girish Gopalakrishnan, Head of Product at QS Solutions, to initiate the presentation. Hello and welcome back to our I move on to our next session, which is a panel presentation. I invite Mr. Girish Gopalakrishnan, Head of Product at QS Solutions, to initiate the presentation. Hello and welcome back to our Over to you, Mr. Girish.
Panelists,
I move on to our next session, which is a panel presentation. I invite Mr. Girish Gopalakrishnan, Hello,
I'll begin introducing our Vice Chancellor, and the next panelist is Dr. Jora would begin, completed possibly within 15 minutes, and Dr. Sehgal would then start, and then finally I'll do the presentation from a QS perspective. So Dr. Jora, if you could get started, great.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gopalakrishnan, and thank you for this introduction. I'm absolutely humbled. And a very good afternoon to on behalf of Chitkara. I fold my to thank QS for giving us this opportunity to share our journey of nationalization. I'm sure we all agree that with the globe, the nationalization has become imperative increase in the pie of higher education. And our leadership at Chandigarh University early in the day. And of course, today additional education policy 2020 has a major emphasis on nationalization. Let me quickly take you on a journey that traversed more than a decade, promoting the region as education hub. Some quick facts. Next slide, please. So we have two universities in two states. Could we have the next slide? Thank you. Punjab and Himachal Pradesh with over 17,000 industry academy, entrepreneurship, cutting edge research, and above all, a global footprint that I would be presenting. So the genesis of an institution excellence lies in the principle, profile and vision founders who define its mission, purpose and direction. And we are very proud of our missions leading us. Could we have the next please? And the next one. Chitkara University expanded around June and accomplishments that Ashok Chitkara, R.I.S.E Chancellor, who has been leading by example with his passion for learning. A renowned mathematician has a flair for life, has completed levels of six levels of education and brain, which is not a small feat. Dr. Madhu Chitkara, distinguished Pro-Chancellor, leads from the front when it comes to establishing institutions and making them institute of academic excellence. Sam and Sir pledged more than 4 decades of their life and career to educate and mentor students. A commitment to the education and student success has become the cornerstone of Ghana University growth philosophy. Can we have the next slide? So you can see our growth story, and we continue to grow each passing, adding something to our existing repertoire. As you can see, started as a college, and today hotels, Chitkara University, a clean and green and holistic education partner. Can we have the video, please? Play the video, please. You can see it's a clean and a green environment where holistic education is imparted to the students. We are a comprehensive with 12 rules: engineering, business, hospitality, art and science, pharmacy, mass communication, on and so forth. Next slide, please. So innovate, improvise, execute. We've always believed that there are two essentials to the way forward. The first one, of course, is vision. And the second more important, is the support from your leadership, invest time and resources to realize and execute that vision. Early in the journey, leadership envisaged a time that would bring diverse perspectives to the table. And then it was brainstorming and deliberating helped us to filter ideas and concepts that would help our students globally competitive as laid down in our charter. Our international strategy stands on 4 pillars: articulation, joint research, Erasmus, and academic mentorship. Today we have 180 collaborations across all continents, across the world. And as a university, we are absolutely aware that we need to keep active. Next slide, please. So here you can see that we have over 180 collaborations across the world. So while we were making strategies, that we were also aware that it was critical to learn from the international community. Next slide. And the first international conference that we ever attended happened to be QS Apple more than a decade back. Thank you, QS, for the platform. But it was here that we learned about other international platforms like R.I.S.E, and AIE, started sharing our learnings, domain of international. Soon we recognized that we needed to strategize more. As the say, the three important ingredients of internationalization are mobility, and mobility. Due to financial constraints, most of our students not travel. Now it was for us to have partners home. So this led to commencement of the annual Global Week 8 years back, a unique philanthropic initiative of our university in the yauna of internationalization at home. So now it was internationalization and internationalization abroad. It's a footprint of the global engagement at our university and is a proven mode of internationalizing learning experience of the students. It not only catalyzes using cross-culture competence and knowledge sharing and faculties on both sides, also provides honest, transparent networking opportunities among the faculties. Such networking often enables fructifying many collaborative programs. The visiting professors deliver credit modules to a vast number of students across the campus. It also facilitates special immersion, showcase and the campus. That is the way we can show Punjab as an education hub. 11 global weeks are conducted. It has in fact acquired the same mega and the university. And is a novel way to expose students to global culture. The picture that you can see is of the 11th global 1919. We were fortunate to have His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama to complete it. It was a surreal moment, not only for all of us, but for all our 65 professors from 35 universities and 22 countries. And this is what the faculty had to say. We have the video, please.
I have never, and I repeat, never attended any event where you have 72 participants from 6 continents across 22 countries in the same room for one sole objective: education, blended learning, and research.
I can't say enough about what an incredibly rich experience this is. I have the opportunity to work with a group of students here, and I'm encouraged to teach them in the way that I would teach at home.
So we've had just a wonderful time exploring India and learning about the culture. But on top of that, we've also had this incredible experience with the students here.
Students seem like they're doing a number of things here that are really exciting, that we hope some of our students also do at our college campuses.
Thank you so much. And I must share that most of these professors have been doing it for the last 6 years. So here you can see a slide of our growing thanks to the global. Because when professors our campus, of the campus, of the region, and they like to send their students. We now have 100 full-time students, not only from the BIM session, but also some from South Asia and Europe. Next slide, please. Sharing the data of growing numbers of inbound and faculty. And the next one. So some these are snippets Can we have the snippets? So these are some of our inbound from various parts of like France, England, France, Finland, Germany, Belgium, from Australia, Canada, South Korea, Taiwan, Indonesia. Outbound mobility grew manifold. And here, of course, that because of our inbound and outbound mobility, we have been Erasmus project. In the last 4 years, we were given four Erasmus under the capacity programs at 104. This year, awarded the YOM project. Can we have the next outbound, please? And also thanks to the global week, we have been able to learn national language. And as I said earlier, it was thanks to the languages of our honorable chancellor that we have been able to establish international languages at the university. And so today we have Spanish, French, German, Japanese, and the picture that you can see on the is the inauguration of the Taiwan Association December 1990, facilitated by National University Taiwan. Speaking on the occasion, His Excellency Chi Chen, Deputy Representative of Taiwan Economic and Cultural Center, the launch of Taiwan at Chandigarh University, a very good initiative, as it would accelerate the growth of the educational cultural in collaboration with Taiwan. So while all this happening, and international was COVID hit us all. It was a pandemic across the world. We were all shattered. Remember I said that mobility and mobility were the three mobile imperatives. And here we were rendered completely immobile. No global week, no international visitors to the campus. We wondered what next. We reached out to our partners. We are grateful to each one of them for they stood by us. Since travel was not possible, they rendered masterclasses, webinars for us to do. And so did our faculty. This education to such form. And as you can see, the next slide, 2020 could be declared global year instead of a global week for us. There was so much done in the online space. Next slide. Our students too contribute to quite an extent, adhering to all norms, respective countries that did. And here you can see pictures of students in France, Indonesia, and I said that we have a lot of students. Some of them actually go on fully paid scholarships under R.I.S.E. Mobility 107. And here is a picture of some of them in Croatia. Next slide, please. So in all my travels, that included relationships, attending conferences, and seminars. There has been a lot of transnational education. While we have all figured out of it, I wonder how many of us have actually worked on to execute or apply international education. That requires commitment, money, and so many resources. Course articulation, lectures abroad, and faculty exchange can only take us so far. But what truly adds value to a student is an access and exposure by national education to their homes. can afford. Earn the wall, and then gradually and important transition into. And everybody, most of the persons have actually laid a lot of emphasis on this. And this motive and vision led us to create an mentorship model that can help an international curriculum closer to their home. Can we have the next slide? So here you can see cycle of these students can start here, get that take international applied curriculum, and then for this they're required to give structure and exposure both to national curriculum and international faculty while preparing them for integration and success upon their transfer overseas. Next slide, please.
Dr. Jora, can I
all this motivated us to create
please.
2019 when we partnered two leading Canadian institutions and one Australian. University of Windsor, College from Ontario, Canada, and Eton University, our partners from Australia, partnered with us in this new fighting space. And the latest one to add bandwagon of this growing academic part is Trent University, Canada. Here you can see all the programs that we are doing with all these institutions. It's a big university of software with big university, culinary college, and the Bachelor of Business Administration, the latest one, Trent University. Next one, please. Sit.
Dr. Jora, can you close it in 1 minute, please?
Sorry.
Can you complete your presentation in 1 minute, please?
Of course. So thanks to all this effort over time, we've been shortlisted the national strategy of the year, modern times higher Asia Awards 20. Truly grateful to QS IGAUGE for awarding us platinum rating. Next slide. New of internationalization as continues. Let me leave you with our vision ahead. We have built a number of partnerships across the world. Now's the time to identify most valued partners, because now vertical inequality will take precedence over horizontal, and we would continue to time and resource ideate, nurture, and build a cohesive and collaborative system to provide us students most relevant and progressive programs. Thank you so much, and Godspeed.
Thank you, Dr. Jora. Even though there was echo, I suppose the guides were to tell international activities that's your university. Wonderful 180 plus partnerships, lots of inbound and outbound. I think that's good to know. I think in a short span of time, you've done a great achievement. Thanks for your presentation, Dr. Jora. Now, can I ask Dr. Sehgal to get started with this presentation? Dr. Sehgal?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Girish. I would request the QS team to share the PPT.
Can we have the PPT, please?
Okay. Thank you, Girish and Professor Sangeet. And once again, on behalf of the Chandigarh University, I welcome all the participants to this QS IGAUGE R.I.S.E event. Right, it's a turning point. You know, the whole Punjab is going to witness that how we can position our own institutions at the global level. It's not only these two universities, which are Chandigarh University and Chitkara University. This whole event is for all the Punjab. So going with the theme, the case study on Punjab as an international higher education hub, So I'm going to present it. Can you move to the next slide, please? Immediately, yeah, then to the next slide. So Punjab is a state who is known for 5 rivers when the name Punjab has come up. So, and Punjab has a great history. So we are the only state, whenever there is any entry into the Indian system, it was the Punjab who witnessed these visitors. So Punjab has, because of this heritage and history, is always welcoming. And Punjabis are also known, to welcome throughout the whole world. Wherever we are in the whole part of world, we have an identity. Now, going with the last 30 years trend, when we say the growth of the universities in Punjab, from a single digit, now around 31 universities, institutions of higher eminence are there. Majority of them, I would say close to 50% is in the private sector, whereas there are other state government universities also. Along with that, the concept of institution of national importance, which is close to 10% in Punjab, and then there are other deemed universities and other universities which caters to the higher education domain. Next slide, please. So Punjab is now witnessing a change. In the last decade, what we have seen, people are coming to Punjab. So this growth is not only from the international point of view, but from the national point of view also. These institutions of national importance, like setting up R.I.S.E, IIT Ropar. So even I would say that Chandigarh is the new education hub and Mohali is in the periphery of it. Next slide, please. So whether it's a top class B school or the private universities, Mohali and Punjab is the preferred destination. The Punjab is having 2 international airports, and along with that, 4 domestic airports which are also coming up, and part of it are already there. It has a good road network. I still remember around 20 years back whenever any different state person used to visit Punjab, they used to say that Punjab has great roads. The GT road is known for it, the 6 lanes, and even now the coming up 8 lanes. So these are the preferred infrastructure development, and thanks to the government of Punjab, which has been providing all type of support. Next slide, please. So with that, if I see the overall the international students presence in India and taking the AISHA data of 2019 and 20, we have seen that good number of international and foreign students have been coming to India. Though majority of them are from Nepal, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, and along with that other SAARC countries. And the most important contributor and the students who are coming are from African countries. So with this, we have seen that the preferred destination is coming to be India. The government has also come up with study in India, and now the motto is, study in India and especially study in Punjab. With this foreign students enrollment, majority of them are at the UG or undergraduate level, but what we have seen, the trend has also shifted from undergraduate to postgraduate and even integrated programs. Even the Punjab and especially Chandigarh University is also offering good number of PhD programs for these international students, and they are also coming up. Next slide, please. This is a comparison, a trend, the growth of the international students in the last 3 years for the 5 major states of India. When we say Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh, and Punjab, by looking at this trend, Punjab is always giving a growth of more than 10%. This is a uniform growth in a way, because if we see, these are the factors which encourage the international students to come to Punjab. So this is the new destination. And why it is so? The next slide. It is because the Punjab universities, the institutions which are situated in Punjab, they are now positioned themselves to be known at the global level. The most important thing is obviously the ease and the cost of living. And especially if you see, Punjabi and Punjab food is known for it. And we have seen the students who come from the various parts of the India or from the globe, they find it that the food is most important parameter apart from the other living parameters, which leads to the presence of them into this state. And most important thing is the fee structure also. Now, comparing with the other states of India, the fee structure which these Punjab and especially the Chandigarh University is offering is at a lower level. The opportunities of scholarships, the presence of international faculty, the international, or we call it global network, the type of collaborations these institutions are having it, is leading to the growth of the international student community to India. And the most important thing is the Punjab diaspora. This is the most important thing because Punjabis diasporas are known throughout the world, which is also encouraging the international students to come. So the situation and the most important part is, especially for Punjab, is the English is the medium of instruction and is an easy way of communication, whether the students are inside the class or outside the class. Next slide, please. Now coming to the case study of Chandigarh University, that how we have been able to attract these international students. Next slide, please. The rankings and accreditations always gives a boost to the students, and that gives a, especially to the faculty and the intellectual capital of the university, the presence and the courage, the new confidence level. So like Chandigarh University was the youngest university to get NAC A+, we are also among the NRIF ranking. Then the most important thing, people always think and discuss about the undergraduate level. But if we discuss at the postgraduate, the having a zero recognitions for Chandigarh University is an indicator that a lot of research activities are there. Apart from this, the memberships and accreditations and recognitions from international bodies. Next slide, please. And the most important one is obviously the QS IGAUGE, which gives an indicator that it's an Indian version, the parameters which gives the international benchmarking. The backbone of any international or an national university is the curriculum. And how these curriculums, especially in Chandigarh University, we take the inputs from all the stakeholders. And obviously, Chandigarh University is a student-centric university, and students are members of all the bodies, whether they are statutory or non-statutory bodies. They have a say in the Chandigarh University. We take their inputs, we take their feedbacks from the system dynamics point of view, we make modifications so that the most important stakeholder, the students and their parents, are also satisfied. Along with that, we provide them the delight into it. And obviously the corporate advisory board, because these are the people who employ our students. The benchmarking with the national bodies, like whether they are CII, NASCOM, the projections, and apart from this, the accreditations like National Board of Accreditation. Recently, the engineering programs are being accredited with that, and taking the benchmarking of ABET and AACSB, obviously, in the coming years to go. The most important thing is whatever we produce are relevant to the industry need, relevant to the society. Next slide, please. So these are some of the factors, and obviously now these Generation Z are always looking for a lot of flexibility. Gone were the days when we were rigid. The education system has changed. The choice-based credit systems has been introduced. The concept of minors, honors, bespoke degrees have been introduced. The concept of amalgamation programs like starting in Chandigarh University but end up in Australia or US. These are the new things which these Generation Z or these young students are looking for. Taking the general proficiency and ability enhancement programs into our curriculum. These are some of the mantras which are giving us the students along with the education community the next, the 10 years growth path. The new education policy, which is also an indicator of the flexibility. We in Chandigarh University is already implementing it with a lot of flexibilities introduced into the system, whether it is a project-based internships, field visits. These are all what the students and education community is looking for. Next slide, please. Coming to the most important thing is when we started it, it's a curriculum, but how we are going to deliver is the platform. Chandigarh University is using Blackboard, which is one of the top recognized learning management system. And Chandigarh University case study was also being published by the Blackboard itself, that within a short durations and how we've been able to utilize all the parameters of learning management systems like Blackboard. And the satisfaction of the student community, whether they are national or international, We have seen during this COVID time when everyone is studying from home and teachers are working from home, this Blackboard or a learning management system has helped a lot. Next slide, please. This is what is the important parameter, especially from the parents or from the students' point of view. Chandigarh University is offering comparably very less, fee structure, especially for international, and a lot of scholarships are already there. Apart from this, whether the student reside in the campus itself, we have international hostel, or they want to stay outside because Mohali and Punjab, their living cost is comparatively less if we compare to other states like Vellore, Tamil Nadu, Pune, Noida, their cost of living is much, much more. So that is one of the indicators that why the students are looking for Punjab and especially Chandigarh University. And one point to mention that if I take the total number of students of international community who are in Punjab, Chandigarh University is having more than 50%. And we can, if in terms of the stats, next slide, please. Since the inception, around more than 61 country students have been studying, and currently 47 country students are studying. Apart from this, we have already discussed, we are mini India. We have students from all the states, 29, as well as all UTs. It's a global community, it's a mini India, it's a mini world. So this type of experience the students are going to get in Chandigarh University. Next slide, please. Obviously, Chandigarh University research and innovation is always a focused area. And in order to attract international students, especially for the research and PhD, we have an Indo-US Global Research Fellowship. A good amount of scholarships are given to them. A lot of, laboratory support is given to them so that, the type of collaborations can come up, especially in the research. This is one of the, next things which is going to come apart from not only focusing on UG, but also on PG and research. Next slide, please. Obviously, yes, time is for collaborations like for this event, Chandigarh University and Chitkara is collaborating. We have been collaborating with 300 plus international partners. So our students are going abroad. There are students which we call it as inbound. Good number of students are coming to us, that is to Chandigarh University. Students have an option to visit, around 70 plus countries. We have regular adjunct faculties who visit us. Apart from this, there are around close to 5% of the regular international faculties who come and teach for at least for one semester or at least for 4 months. Next slide, please. These are the parameters. Apart from this, what the student, especially at the undergraduate level, is looking for is the employability. And Chandigarh University is known for placements. And obviously, the most important thing is how and what we are offering to the student. Industries are partner to it. We have research labs from Forge, Capgemini, a lot of other industry collaborated activities, whether it is at the curriculum level or setting up certain research and laboratories for the practical experience of the students. Everything is here, and this is the way, whatever is relevant, let's teach that thing. Next slide, please. Outcome, obviously the stat speaks. We have more than 600 companies who have visited in a year, good number of around 6,300 plus placements. And obviously the Limca Book of Record, like what we all 2 universities are projecting, the QS IGAUGE certification, the same way as Limca Book of Record is an indication that the companies are visiting and have a faith on our Chandigarh University system. Next slide, please. Obviously, for a student, especially from the curriculum and how we are going to teach, the most important thing is what are the other facilities, whether there are, the student activities, they are part of it, good hostels, everything is offered to the students. And again, taking them as our own child, that type of care is there. And the concept of student care centers is also being very meticulously followed in Chandigarh University. Next slide, please. The most important thing is once they are part of our family, we not only celebrate our national days, we also celebrate their, we call it international days, their annual celebrations, their own functions. The Chandigarh University and the international students are part of it. We celebrate together so that, they should not feel that they are out of their home. Next slide, please. Regular international events are part and parcel of Chandigarh University. Again, encouraging the study in India program. Chandigarh University is also there in the government platform, and we are always inviting students to come. There are good around 140 plus courses which are offered to the students. Next slide, please. Now, apart from the academia, the most important thing is the life skill. You know, how we are going to learn from the world leaders. Like our honorable, Dalai Lama ji, Nobel laureates like Professor Vail, Muhammad Yunus ji, they have been regularly visiting us and they have been interacting with the students, because students learn a lot of activity, lot of domains from these Nobel laureates. They are the people who always encourage our students. Next slide, please. Apart from this, there are Professor Roger, Professor Jean, Professor John, whether they are from sciences, whether they are from engineering or from a physics background, every student is going to have an interaction with them. They learn the new things, the new innovations, and obviously the most important thing is the success, along with that the failure factors also, because life is always a combination of both. Apart from this, the other prominent personalities like various ambassadors or member of parliaments who always come, like Dr. Ila Gandhi, from the family of Mahatma Gandhi, has also visited us. Slide, please. Apart from this, the other prominent visitors were there. Now, again, giving the stats, how Chandigarh University have been working on joint and practical research. Our 7% of the total manuscripts are in the top 25 percentile journals. Around 12% of the manuscripts are authored with international researchers. Around 87 national and international and national government funded projects are there. So this is an indicator, from the Web of Science and Scopus, that how the Chandigarh University is collaborating with the international partners. It's not only working for the local community or the national community, but obviously for the global community. Next slide, please. Yes, again, one of the important factor, we are among, if we leave IITs, which file the patents in total. So Chandigarh University has also filed more than 1,000 plus patents. Again, an indicator of how we promote innovation, especially at the undergraduate and working with the faculties and researchers. Next slide, please. Obviously, the government of Punjab, these patents have given them a positioning, and we are again thankful for Captain Amrinder Singh, our own Chief Minister. So Punjab is now ranked number 8 in the India, when we call it the patent ranking. There are around 100 plus startups which Chandigarh University has given. Apart from this, a lot of government funded activities are there. The most important thing is the total patents which have been filed by Punjab, we are close to more than 50% of it. Again, it's not only because of the university, it is because of the students, because of the faculty and the researchers. Next slide,
Dr.
please.
Saigal, can you close in 1 minute, please?
Yeah, this is the last slide, sir. Again, is an indicator. It's a comparison chart with all those 5 states. If I compare on the student enrollment growth, and the international linkage and air linkage and the diaspora. So the Punjab is at a top, we call it the high positioning, whereas it's one of the domain where again we are also working along with the government of Punjab and other collaboration on the startup culture. Thank you. This is from the Chandigarh University. Once again, Chandigarh University is offering world-class education, but right at the affordable fees. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Saigal. The way you presented, the Punjab is poised to become an international hub, and what all things happening at Chandigarh is very informative. We have hardly a minute left. I'll just share a couple of slides that we have from a QS perspective. It'll take a minute or so. So, we think there are a lot of things that has to go into internationalization effort in a university to improve its performance and all that. And one of the parameters that we have noticed based on our research is, right, number of international faculty, number of international students, citations per faculty are an important factor. And it's not just this analysis which is done for top 100 university, but it also applies, as we see, for universities across different geographies, be it Africa's, Americas, Asia Pac, or Europe, right? A consistent increase in faculty number, international faculty number, students, and citation is what led our institution to improve its performance and hold its ranking, right? I'm not getting into these things, but I definitely want to talk about some of the aspects what QS is doing in helping universities to manage their internationalization. We have a tool called Move On Hub, right? And this tool is currently in beta. It's free tool. It can be used by any university. We have a directory of 7,000 institutions over there with a lot of profile data like ranking, number of faculties, and still things like that. Now, this platform could be used by universities to find their potential partner in the times of COVID and pandemic, where the conferences and events are rare. A platform like this is something that should be useful. Universities can definitely use this particular platform. We also have another platform called Move On Lite, which is basically a platform to exchange data between the universities, let them connect to various universities worldwide. We already have 300 plus institutions connected to this network, and this is another free tool that universities could use to connect it. So if you go to Move On Hub, this URL that you see at the bottom of the slide, while you register, you can ask for this tool, and this tool could definitely help. We also have a full-fledged tool called Move On, which helps international universities to manage their partnerships and mobilities in much better, effective way. We have close to 300 plus universities using this particular tool worldwide to manage and to further their partnerships and finding their performance being better and other activities associated with data. I'm not getting into this. I'm gonna stop my sharing. I think I crossed 1 minute more than the scheduled time, 1 or 2 minutes more than the scheduled time. I want to thank Dr. Jora and Dr. Sehgal for their presentation. I think it gave a good insight as to how Punjab is poised, and as well as your individual universities are doing a whole lot of international activities. I hope our viewers were informed of various things, and it was a very informative session. Thanks to both of you, and thanks to the viewers. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Girish, Dr. Satbir Sehgal, and Dr. Sangeet Jora for an interesting round of presentations. We'll now move on to our next presentation, Measuring Institutional Quality and Excellence through QS IGAUGE. Let me introduce Mr. Sachin Kumar, Associate Director, Client Relations at QS IGAUGE, to initiate the presentation and introduce other presenters. Over to you, Sachin.
Thank you, Aishwarya. Good afternoon, everyone. So in next 45 minutes, we are going to talk about QS IGAUGE rating and the various aspects which are related to QS IGAUGE rating. And I will also have Dr. Satbir Singh Sehgal from Chandigarh University. He is going to share their experience of being rated by QS IGAUGE. And then we will, of course, have Dr. K.K. Mishra, who is the Associate Director, Quality Assurance and Accreditation at Chitkara University. So subsequently, he will be sharing his experience when it comes to QS IGAUGE university rating as far as Chitkara University is concerned. So I'll just share my screen and take you through a presentation for next 25 to 30 odd minutes. And then I will request Dr. Sehgal and then Dr. Mishra to come on the screen and share their experience about QS IGAUGE rating. So allow me a moment, I'll share my screen. So QS IGAUGE rating is basically one of its kind initiative that we have in the country. It is certainly setting the quality standards when it comes to higher education, and recently we have started providing the same kind of experience to schools, K-12 schools as well. So QS IGAUGE, as we all may be knowing, is part of extended QS family. So whatever we do, whatever product or solution that we may have, these students are eventually at the center of everything that we do. And the mission of QS at large is to enable motivated people around the world to fulfill their potential by fostering international mobility, educational achievement, and career development. So that has been a consistent and continuous endeavor of QS, regardless of the product and solution which they are providing to educational institutions. Those who are not aware of what QS is, so QS has been there as an organization for last 31 years. The first project which was undertaken by the organization was to publish top MBA career guide. The organization was founded by Mr. Nunzio Quacquarelli, and at this point of time we have over 500 staff members in, and of course presence in 10 plus countries. We have our presence in India in two different cities, in Mumbai and in Bangalore. So we publish the world's most referred world university rankings. Then we also publish lots of regional university rankings, like QS Arab region rankings or emerging Europe and Central Asia rankings. Apart from rankings, we are also into doing the ratings of universities and colleges. So we are doing QS star rating for last close to 10 years, more than 10 years actually. And then we are doing QS iGauge rating in India, which is also the subject of this presentation. So QS iGauge is being done in India for last 3 years, more than 3 years, I would say. Our recent World University rankings were published on 8th of June in this month. So moving on, why do you need evaluation? I don't think I need to get into the details of it, but when we look at the higher education system that we have in India, that is actually the largest in the world. We have over 1,000 universities actually and more than 40,000 colleges, all government, private, deemed, and in various kind of segments. So though we have the quantity there, but when it comes to quality, that is an aspect which QS iGauge is trying to cater to and trying to help the institutions in improving their overall quality, as well as providing unbiased and independent information to students when it comes to various functionalities of a particular institute. I'll later get into the details of various parameters and how do we actually rate the universities and colleges. So third and a very important point is achieving global benchmarks. We have lots of institutions at this point of time which are trying to further improve their quality and to achieve global benchmarks. And our objective is basically to help them in achieving their vision and mission and helping them in their growth plans and objectives. Accountability and of course the quality assurance aspects of it. When I take you through the parameters and the methodology, you will be in a better position to understand as how we are going to actually aid the institutions in further improving the quality aspects and improved performance. Of course, all of these steps which are to be taken for improving the quality of an institute will eventually lead to the improved performance of the institute. And that may be in terms of the output of the students, or it may be in terms of the overall performance of the institute itself. So the improvement will be visible across all the functions and the entire spectrum of the institute. When we actually talk to the institutions, we and this is a fact that lots of them want to get into rankings. So here, just to explain as what is the basic difference between rankings and ratings. Rankings are always a relative performance. So regardless of the organization which is publishing it, and here I'm primarily referring to QS rankings, they are relative performance. So regardless of your size, your age, you will be compared to every other participating university in that particular category. It creates a hierarchical list. So at the end of it, as an outcome, you will get a rank 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. It changes every year. There are limited indicators considering the kind of diversity in different higher education systems of the world. As we get the participation from more than 60 countries and thousands of universities from different parts of the world, we had to keep the indicators, we had to choose the indicators in such a way so that they are generic and they can actually match with the higher education scenarios in different parts of the countries, in different societies, I would say. And then more emphasis on research, because of course that has to be one of the key agenda or key reason for a university to exist. On the other hand, if you look at the ratings, so ratings are much more inclusive and adaptive, and I'm talking about QS iGauge rating particularly. So we have kind of localized the parameters. We still took reference from our globally renowned QS star ratings that we are doing for last so many years, but still basis on our experience of Indian higher education market. And as we have heard in lots of sessions since morning, that Indian higher education itself is so diverse, and there are some specific needs which are to be met by any rating agency if at all they want to assess Indian higher education institutions. So we have kept that thing in mind, and we have customized the rating parameters to suit the requirements. The outcome of QS iGauge rating, the scorecard that we provide or the badges that we give to institutions, are valid for a 2-year time period. So it basically gives you an opportunity to get into the details of the report card, and then to identify the areas which may you need to further work upon, and then subsequently and gradually you improve upon those areas and probably look for participating in QS iGauge rating again after a period of 2 years. It provides a lower emphasis on research. It does not mean that we are not giving enough importance to research. Rather, we understand that there are lots of higher education institutions, particularly the affiliated colleges or even autonomous colleges, which are solving lots of other problems like that of access, availability. So that is something which we will focus as far as the detailed parameters are concerned. There is some weightage for research as well, though. Why ratings are needed? To further emphasize the points, it provides a 2-year learning and improvement curve to the participating institute. So at the end of the audit process, we are going to provide you a detailed scorecard, and that provides you an opportunity to identify your strengths, which of course institutions use for marketing and promotions. They can actually highlight it in their outreach campaigns, whereas all these shortcomings, or rather I would say the areas to work upon, can be identified, and then the work can be done by the management as far as improvement part is concerned. It formalizes the areas of strength and weaknesses. So we also understand that lots of educational institutions want to improve the quality, overall quality of the institute. But it may be at times a bit difficult to understand as what exactly is quality and what all areas they need to focus upon from the management perspective. So this audit of QS iGauge rating will formalize all the areas of your strength and weaknesses. So management will have a document to work upon if they are willing to further improve the internal processes of the institute. And it basically highlights areas which are not usually covered in rankings because of the very different purpose and very different nature of the rankings itself. It validates data for future planning, and it certainly supports institutional goal and KPIs. Strategic management tool and detailed audit. Though we also understand that when we provide the badges to the institutions, and when they do well in certain areas, in certain parameters, they use them when it comes to marketing and promotions. But we cannot ignore an equally important and the other aspect of it, that is the internal quality improvement. So the formalization of strengths and weaknesses will provide a strategic management tool which can help the management in identifying the areas, and then further improving those areas. So it basically quantifies everything that you are doing at the institute. This is first of its kind initiative of QS in India. QS iGauge is a unique kind of rating system that we have devised, and it is meant and being used for Indian higher education institutions only. As I mentioned earlier, it's a very comprehensive audit of an Indian institution from a global perspective, that we can say. It helps the management in preparing a future ready system to promote excellence and quality in India. It's a rating mechanism developed for India, for institutions with international aspirations. So it will basically highlight the areas from international perspective as well, and can be used as a stepping stone for most of the universities which are willing to participate in QS rankings and further willing to improve their rankings. It's of course a very rigorous evaluation. Overall audit initiation and the data submission by the institute and subsequently the analysis of the data by us takes anywhere between 14 to 16 weeks or even more, depending on the kind of data that you have, or the time that you will need as far as preparing the data is needed. So it's a very rigorous evaluation. Along with the data, you provide lots of evidences, supporting documents, etc. And it certainly empowers institutions towards capability enhancement. So we understand that every institute has the right to say that they are the best in any particular aspect. But when you get a badge from an organization of repute like that of QS, it certainly it certainly adds a different kind of credibility to the overall marketing and outreach of the institute. So it was officially launched on 21st March 2018 by former late President Mr. Pranab Mukherjee. Moving on straight away to the categories and parameters that we have for QS IGAUGE rating, and here I'm particularly talking about universities and colleges. So when it comes to core criteria, there are 7 of them. We have teaching and learning, we have faculty quality, we have employability, we have diversity and accessibility, then facilities, social responsibility, governance and structure. And on the right hand side, you can see the respective points which are allocated to each and every indicator. So all of the parameters have their importance in the overall scheme of things of the institute. Teaching and learning is extremely important from the perspective of the students or your prospective students per se. Faculty quality is of course the base of teaching and learning, so it actually kind of gives an idea to the prospective students and parents as how focused the institute is when it comes to recruiting top quality faculty members. Employability is again extremely important from the outcome perspective. When the students are coming into the institute, employability is certainly one of these aspirations which they are likely to have. Then diversity and accessibility, it of course shows how big a brand the institute is outside your home city or your home state. And as we are listening in we have listened in debate as well, that what kind of an importance the both the academia as well as the students as well as the parents are according to the diversity part of it. Infrastructure or the facilities, then social responsibility, that is basically to understand how well you are contributing as an entity, how well you are contributing to the society as an entity. And then the governance and structure, so how on real term basis the institute is being managed, and how sound and effective your governance and structure is. In advanced criteria, there are 6 options. For a university, research is mandatory, and then the university can select any one from the remaining 5. Whereas, as far as colleges are concerned, and be it an affiliated college or an autonomous college per se, they have the freedom to choose any 2 out of the 6 parameters which are available. So overall rating will be done on 1400 parameters, and these are the score requirements when it comes to attaining particular badges. So to get a platinum badge, the institute need to score minimum 1260 points, which is 90% of the overall score. To get diamond rating, you need to score 1050, which is 75%. And to attain a gold rating, you need to score 55% marks. So in fact, I'll just come back to the previous slide. So apart from getting an overall badge for your overall performance, you will also be given one badge each for each of the parameters. So for example, you may get a diamond in teaching and learning, a gold in faculty quality, and so on. So that kind of gives you a freedom to use the relevant badge in promotions and of course the marketing campaigns that you may plan after attaining these badges. Just to give you an idea as how the universities have fared on it, if we talk about colleges and universities, we have put here the scores. Uh, right, the highest score attained by a university in QS IGAUGE rating is 1265. The average score is 895, and the lowest score was 554. And then on the left hand side, you can see different parameter level scores as well. So there are lots of institutions which have done really well when it comes to teaching and learning, or employability, or facilities, social responsibility, and entrepreneurship particularly, uh, per se. But when you look at research, that is certainly an area where we don't have too many universities and colleges which have done extremely well. These are the nationwide scores for colleges. So the highest score attained by a college was 1101. The average was 826, and the minimum score attained by a college was 424. And on the left hand side, you can see various parameter level scores which are attained by the colleges. This list is just to be mentioned here, but otherwise you can refer our website, which is igauge.in. We have an even detailed list. As on date, we have more than 100 universities and colleges which have signed up for it. We have published the results of more than 70 institutions which are available on our website. In fact, just to mention, both the hosting partners of this event are also rated by QS IGAUGE. And then, of course, we have lots of private institutions and government institutions from different parts of the country. Would request you to refer igauge.in for a detailed list and further details on the scores and the kind of ratings which they have attained. So apart from QS iGauge rating, which I explained to you, this is particularly meant for universities and colleges. We have a few other relevant offerings for you. Subject ratings. So as we also heard one of the panel members speak this in the panel discussion, that selecting a college or a university is extremely important, but an even more important aspect is to select the right department or right subject, and then probably you can go on for selecting the right college or university. So initially, when we were doing the rating for the university or a college as a whole, then we deliberated on this particular aspect, and then on the basis of feedback from lots of institutions, got into the details of the ratings. So now we have the option available where a university or a college can have their particular department or faculty participate in subject wise ratings of QSI gauge. And as we all understand, the overall institute is basically the sum total of various departments or faculty members that you may have. So ideally, every department or every faculty of the institute should strive for the excellence in quality. So if we have 10 excellent quality departments of a university or a college, the college or university is by design going to be an excellent quality university or a college or an institute per se. So that is what we are trying to solve here. We are doing the subject wise rating for universities and colleges, and through this we are also providing this information to students. So students will also of course be they will also be accessing our website igauge.in, and we are going to list all of the details there, so though they will get to understand which university stands where when it comes to a particular department or faculty, because that is something they are more likely to look at before actually selecting the university or college. And especially because of coronavirus and the ongoing pandemic, last year we decided to get into e-lead certification as well, as basis on a survey with the parents. It came to our knowledge that lots of them were highly interested in understanding that whether the institute which they are going to select for their ward has sufficient capabilities to carry on the activities, academic activities per se, online or not. So E-Lead certification has done a fantastic job in that aspect. We don't have any other parallel certification or service available at this point of time for the academic institutions. So this is helping the parents a lot. Through this, they can actually understand whether the institute has sufficient capabilities when it comes to continuing the academic activities of the institute is concerned, because no one knows how long the pandemic will last and what kind of changes will it enforce on the academic institutions. And we also don't know whether the future is in blended learning, or it's going to be completely physical classroom, so it's going to be completely online for the next 1 or 2 or even more academic years to come. So E-Lead certification can be a fantastic starting point to showcase that you have sufficient capabilities when it comes to providing, when it comes to continuing the education in an online mode, even during pandemic. And then our very recent initiative is QS IGAUGE school rating. This we launched in August last year, August 2020. So this again is something which is a unique initiative that we have, because we don't think we have another private and independent national level initiative available for the schools. There are lots of rankings which are there, and schools have the option to participate in them. But when it comes to ratings, they don't have any options available. So when you look at it closely, rankings are more like that year-end exam. So you can actually participate in it, and at the end of it, it will tell you what is your grade. Rankings will tell you what is your rank, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and all. But it will not tell you what are the areas which you need to work upon to get, if you get if you are getting a rank of 50, how you can move to the rank of 1. That is something which can be done by QS iGauge ratings, both in terms of universities and colleges. So in QS iGauge school ratings also, we have certain parameters, 8 of them basically, and we have an equally rigorous evaluation mechanism for schools. All kind of schools can participate in it, be it international or CBSE or ICSE or state board schools. It again will provide you two opportunities on two different fronts. It the scorecard that we are going to provide you at the end of the audit process is going to help you understand the areas of strength and the areas of weakness, or I would say areas to work upon, which you can use to further improve the internal processes and systems of the institute. And it is going to provide you an opportunity to highlight the strength of your institute. So you will do well in some or the other parameters, be it the infrastructure or teaching and learning or something else, and that comes out as a highlight and a key strength of your institute, so that you will be in a position to use for all of your outreach campaigns and marketing and all of your promotional campaigns. We launched QSI Gate school rating right at the time when NEP 2020 was launched. So we have incorporated all the relevant features of new education policy as well. It certainly empowers the stakeholders, increasing brand presence. That of course comes along with the association with QS, and then the continuous improvement part of it. So regardless of how good you are as an institute or how big a brand you are, there is still a scope for improvement. And that is something which you can do with the help of the audit report that we are going to provide in all the cases. So whether you participate in QSI Gauge university rating or college rating or subject ratings or E-Lead or QSI Gauge school ratings, you are going to get an audit report at the end of it, which will serve the purpose of a detailed scorecard on various parameters of that rating service that we are providing. So it's a comprehensive audit. It provides a future ready system. We have already covered that. And of course, the association with the QS brand. Post-audit branding. So branding is of course one of the aspects which particularly the private institutions will be very interested in. apart from providing you that audit report, it certainly helps you in branding. I'll show you some examples as how QS iGauge does the branding through various events and our participation in various kind of events, both physical and online. These days it's primarily online, but earlier we used to participate in most of the relevant educational events as well, be it in India or even outside the country, like events like NAFSA were also being covered by us. So we used to print these booklets. We are also doing it now, but in e-format. So these are some of the highlights of various events which we participated in, and of course institutions know it far better as how they can further use it in branding and marketing. So wherever possible, we invite the luminaries from at the highest possible levels, from the academia, from corporate, to participate and then understand their perspectives. At time to help the corporate and academia to understand each other's perspective as well. So, like the event which we are participating in, we conduct lots of such events at different times and having different kind of themes as well. Post audit branding, how institutions use it. I don't need to get into the details of it. Of course, the badges which you will get at the end of it, the certificate which you will get, you can use that in all of your promotional campaigns, all of your outreach campaigns and marketing tools. These are some of the glimpses which we have shared here. So apart from reaching out to the institutions, to corporates and to academicians, we also reach out to students. So time to time, we keep conducting events where we invite the students as well as the relevant speakers, those who can interact with them, and we take QS iGauge brand to the students as well. Some of the feedback from the participating institutions, those who have been through the QS iGauge rating. We have done this audit for 7 state government universities of Andhra Pradesh state, and the state government universities particularly used it to understand the areas to work upon, because they may not be very heavy on branding or they may not be interested in putting the advertisements, but definitely internal quality improvement is a continuous process, and in that aspect the Andhra Pradesh government adopted this, and we did the rating for 7 state government universities. So in fact, that's it from my side, and we'll certainly remain in touch. We will reach out to the academic institutions, and you can also reach out to us if you have any specific questions. Since I'm sharing my screen at this point of time, I may not be in a position to take the questions that you may have, but we can certainly talk about it offline and we can connect about it. So I think I have finished my session before time. It was supposed to go on till 3:30, but it's 3:18. So I would, and we have two other speakers with me, which are in green room. So I would now invite Dr. Satbir Singh Sehgal, who is the registrar and a professor at Chandigarh University, to share their experience as and when they went through QS iGauge rating. Over to you, Dr. Sehgal.
Thank you, Sachin. You remind me around 2.5 years back, around when we were also interacting with you. And obviously, for any education institution nowadays, to see where they are, in comparison to other. I would give another example. If you feel that how your body is responding and at what level you are, you first go for some lab tests. Now, similar, that's what we call it as diagnose. Obviously, QS iGauge is going to diagnose you. Is going to give you that where you stand. So there are various parameters, as Mr. Sachin was explaining, how the institution out of 1400 score is going to get it. Obviously, they call it as primary parameters, and sometimes they call it secondary or optional. They are not optional, they are additional parameters. But it's a learning. It's learning for any education institutions. Taking small things, I know that people are publishing papers, but nowadays, if you want to work on the positioning, that is in terms of your rating and rankings, you have to publish paper only, I would rather call it on Scopus. Institutions are going to develop all these QS and other parameter rating agencies always take the figures from Scopus. So that's we call it how the institutions are going to develop their roadmaps, how they are going to develop their strategies. So these ratings are definitely going to help any institution. So they will help you to diagnose the areas of improvement. Small things. Taking another example, for a higher education institution, a term is normally used that whether you are a STEM, STEM is science, technology, engineering, and or mathematics. So how you classify yourself? See, they have a parameters. They say that, okay, if the percentage is more than 65% of the total students, you are going to be considered as a STEM. So those are the factors which will help you, whether you are a STEM, whether you are a mixed or you are a non-STEM institution. Same way, these parameters, whether they are research, because the factors are going to be calculated. It's not only the publications, because, sometimes they say that I'm publishing 100 papers, I'm publishing 300 papers. But remember, when you are going to go for these ratings and rankings, it is the publication per faculty. So that type of, diagnosis, that type of policy building thing, parameters, we as an higher education institutions are going to learn. No doubt, yes, this is the Indian version of QS, but is the most important one to start with. And for any higher education, whether you are a college, you are a school, that will help you to plan your future. But at the same time, from a stakeholder, let's say from a parent's point of view, that will also give a, quantitative parameters that, okay, these are the parameters where the university or higher education is working. And these are their strengths. So it's a certificate, it's a badge, obviously, for any higher education. And, again, one of the user of QS IGAUGE, I would rather say that, obviously to start with, one has to go with. And thank you, Sachin. I think any other specific thing, but again, who as a registrar of a university and as a person who is representing education institutions, I would definitely say that, as an institute, one has to go for it. Thank you.
Thank you for your encouraging words, Dr. Sehgal. I would now invite Dr. K.K. Mishra. K.K. Mishra is a professor as well as the Associate Director, Quality Assurance and Accreditation at Chitkara University to share his or rather their experience of going through QS IGAUGE rating. Dr. Mishra, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Sachin. And it's my privilege and honor. I would like to extend my sincere thanks to QS IGAUGE for this opportunity to share my expertise on the topic measuring institutional quality and excellence through IGAUGE. QS IGAUGE rating, which I am aware that the system which evaluates the institution's individual performance in different aspects that have been categorized primary and secondary. Secondary, that is primary, you already explained. Secondary research is completely mandatory for the universities. In case of colleges, it is not mandatory. That is a good thing because most of the universities supposed to be a research university instead of teaching university. Because till 2014, it was fine that institutions which are offering higher educations in India supposed to be a teaching university. Chitkara University has been awarded Platinum Badge overall and become the first university in India to have that kind of overall university rating, which was not an easy task. Chitkara University has also been awarded badge of platinum for employability, facilities, governance and structure, entrepreneurship, and diamond badge for faculty quality, teachers, teaching learning, social responsibility, diversity, accessibility, and research, which is mandatory. Even many universities in India, which has many publications, are not being able to secure diamond category in research. Just I compliment the statement of Dr. Sahgal. The faculty publications with reference to the number of faculty. The count of faculty is more important rather than number of research papers being published by any institution. It was very tough task for the university to go for audit of QS IGAUGE. It took more than 6 months and continuous and rigorous audit process for us, including phases of submissions of online applications, justifications, and clarifications of the submissions of the proofs, which we appreciate that lots of learning has been given to us. Apart from that, Chitkara University has also got elite certifications, which again given us certifications that the university is ready for e-learning because of full-fledged LMS systems into the part of teaching learning processes. We at Chitkara University use 2 LMSs. I was going one of your report, which is called as e-university, where your organizations has listed that 93% of the universities RHIs in India uses only single LMS to support teaching, learning, and evaluations. So we are quite proud to share that we are having more than 2 LMS at the same time to reach to the students and to support their teaching, learning, and evaluations. To meet the requirements laid down by the QS to get such ratings, rankings on the quality teaching, learnings, and evaluations has improved manifold. The pandemic has become a boom for Chitkara University, as university got many prestigious rankings given by QS Asian ranking, Times Higher Education's impact ranking, where we have been listed in top 100 in some of the SDGs, especially SDG 7, which is renewable and sustainable energy. And the rest of somewhere we were being listed in top 200, top 300 in Times Higher Education's impact ranking. So this was an experience which we got through the processes and continuous quality improvement processes, which also you also quote in one of your slide. And for institution of Punjab, I would like to say that not only for Punjab, for the adjoining states also, my recommendation would be to analyze their data and must process for QS University college ratings, so that based on their data, they can also go for QS stars, but there are certain limitations that 5% are 1 to 5% of the international students supposed to be there as a part of teaching learning processes. So only the institutions which are having 1 to 5% of international students and that faculty, they can only go for QS stars ratings. That is the eligibility criteria, which is laid down by QS stars manual and methodology. Most important thing that which I appreciate comparing with other initiative or other rankings which QS IGAUGE is having, a transparent methodology where everything is laid down, that what are the benchmarkings, on which number of faculty members you will get diamond rating, how many percentage of research papers, how many research journals to be published by the institutions to secure a diamond badge for the research, how many employability skills you can say that employers to be available for on-campus placements of the students, being good enough that to meet with that benchmarking, we got full marks into employability also. Best part to celebrate with us. I'm also thankful for the entire team for QS and QS IGAUGE for providing us the fact sheet of World University Ranking, with the help of which we also analyze the data and we are improving upon. And our main motive is to work everything on the faculty basis. Patent per faculty count. Publications per faculty count, which is very high. If you talk about the citations also, we are now reaching 3 citations per faculty, which is very good in numbers. And even we are also working for the H index and the visibility of the research quality upon receiving the diamond badge from you, and the key factors which you your organization indicated that these are the parameters where actually Chitkara University used to work upon, that these are the parameters where you can still improve upon. We got the platinum rating, which is again 1260 marks and above has been provided to the institutions. So being first university in the platinum rating, I would only recommend all the institutions in Punjab that analyze your data, go for QS IGAUGE rating. This will help you in understanding where actually you are. Because ranking is one thing where, again, I'll supplement your points. If you are at 50, going to 20, 25, it would be difficult. But if you are having a QS IGAUGE rating, actually you will have the overall insight of your own institutions that where you are. So thankful to the entire QS team, QS IGAUGE for providing FactSheet for World University Ranking, QS IGAUGE rating score sheets, which help us in visual building exercise to perform the much better workout at accuracy level, at the university level, in the reputed QS and Times Higher Education's ranking in coming futures. Thank you for the opportunity. Rest with you, and I would also be happy if we can serve our advice in a better way for quality improvement. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, Dr. Mishra. And on behalf of the entire team, I'd like to thank Dr. Sehgal and Dr. K.K. Mishra once again for taking out time and joining this session and then sharing your experiences. I'm sure it will encourage many more institutions to actually go to actually come forward and explore the options of participating in QS IGAUGE. So thank you very much. And thanks for joining. Over to you, Aishwarya.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Sachin, for sharing such a comprehensive presentation with us, and Dr. Sehgal and Dr. Mishra for sharing your experiences with QS IGAUGE. Up next, we have two interesting masterclasses lined up for you, starting simultaneously at 3:30 p.m. I request all the delegates and speakers present to proceed for the same. To join them, you can go to the lobby and click on the blue banner on the left, which says, "Click here to join workshop," and enter a Microsoft Teams meeting. The viewers joining us on YouTube can follow the links posted by our team in the comments. I express my gratitude to the teams at QS IGAUGE, Chandigarh University, and Chitkara University for making today's conference a great success. I also thank everyone present today with us for their kind cooperation throughout the conference, and I hope you enjoyed all the sessions today. Have a great day ahead.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another exciting and much awaited national level virtual discussion on My Sustainable Campus organized by QS IGAUGE. My name is Arun, and I'm the Associate Director for Client Relations at QS IGAUGE. So, we will soon be joined by our respected keynote speaker, Mrs. Jyotika Lesingani Dhawan, and a vibrant student panel headed by Mr. Dhruv Jati. And for the first time, we are taking this session live both on YouTube as well as Facebook. So subscribe and stay tuned for more such sessions in the future. So before I move on, let me give a quick introduction about QS and our Indian initiatives for the schools and higher education institutions before we proceed further with the SDGs and the subject. So QS Cockerelli Simmons, as we all know, there is no introduction is needed. However, we are the world's leading provider of services, analytics, and insight to the global higher education sector, whose mission is to enable motivated people around the world to achieve their potential through academic achievement, international mobility, and career development. And we have launched our Indian operations through a joint venture called the QS IGAUGE, which is India's first nationwide educational rating system for the schools, colleges, and the universities, aims at capturing the essence of dynamic Indian education system and conforms to international standards and best practices. So let me just come back to our core subject, which is the SDGs, or the Sustainable Development Goals, which has superseded the MDGs. So before, the SDGs have been adopted by the UN in 2015. So it was a Millennium Development Goal, and this SDGs have superseded the MDGs in 2015, which is a very comprehensive and integrated approach of 17 set of distinct goals, where they recognize that action in one area will affect the outcome in others. So thus, by creating a very balanced system of social, economical, and environmental stability. So as you all might be wondering, QS as a global organization, what is our part in implementing SDGs? So QS as a global organization is highly committed in implementing SDGs across the globe, primarily within the education sector. So in line with this, QS has decided to launch our SDG campaigns for the schools, colleges, and universities in India. And why India? This is the second largest schooling system in the world, where our initiative aims to connect with those students that are passionate about implementing SDGs and those envision a sustainable institution. So we are also proud to announce our national level competitions on SDGs for students. Most likely by the month of Jan or February, we are expected to launch that, and through which we would like to see the Indian schools and the student communities setting a benchmark for their global counterparts in implementation of SDGs in education institutions, creating more and more sustainable campuses across the globe. So through this first ever national level virtual discussion on My Sustainable Campus, we wish to give a head start to our SDG initiatives, Sustainable Development Goals initiative for our upcoming years. So now I would like to introduce and welcome Mrs. Jyotika Raisingani Dhawan to give the keynote address for this session. So about Mrs. Jyotika Dhawan, she is the founder of Helix HR and Alliance Square. I'm sorry. So Mrs. Dhawan is a human resource facilitator, diversity and SDG champion. So her expertise includes innovative social sensitization of youth, diversity leadership development, inclusive cultures, equality, sustainable development goals, and human resources. So while coming back to her other side, her search firm Helix HR is one of the most sought after executive search companies for placement and diversity, India and globally. She runs Orion with her partner Nitin Dhawan, and Orion Square is an award-winning social impact platform for students aligned with sustainable development goals for India. So they have been working thousands of students across India globally to create a cutting-edge insights, best practices, sustainable improvement in society that equips students with the tools to bring out a change, including those related to gender equality, poverty, inequality, climate, etc. So, and they are closely working with United Nations development programs, UNGC, United Nations volunteers on several interventions related to sustainable development goals and inclusions. So while looking at the recognitions that Mrs. Dhawan has received so far, she has received an award on equality and diversity by Femina and Subera Social Enterprise Award, and recently the DMA Award for Women Entrepreneur doing significant social impact work in India. So it's a privilege for me to share the screen with Mrs. Jyotika Dhawan, and I welcome her for giving the keynote address in the national level discussion on My Sustainable Campus organized by QS. Welcome, Mrs. Jyotika. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Arun. Thank you for a lovely introduction. I hope everyone can hear me, and congratulations to you guys for putting this forum together, and to everyone who is joining us today. I think because you've taken a first step in, actually it sounds very big, but the fact is that you've taken the step in saving humanity. You've already given our introduction that we are a social impact platform for youth aligned with sustainable development goals. Equality, diversity, and inclusion is another strong focus area for us. So we are working on diversity, inclusion, equality, and SDGs with schools and colleges as well as for employment. So without, I know we are very short on time, and there's a great forum that you all have put together. So let me just talk about these SDGs and some of the things that we all can do together. So Arun did share what are these SDGs, and I'm sure a lot of you are already aware. Why are they so critical? So I'll just do a quick recap. We all know that there are a set of 17 goals for the world's future, which are to be achieved by 2030. They are backed up by a set of 169 detailed targets. They earlier, like Arun mentioned, there were MDGs that we used to call them Millennium Development Goals, and now these are SDGs. They're adapted by 193 countries, including India. But yet, while we are having this forum and we are talking about this with the students in India, you all would have noticed that people don't know too much about SDGs. People do not participate very enthusiastically in the implementation of sustainable development goals. And let's talk about why does that happen? How do we engage communities everywhere to make the United Nations goals local goals? How do you and me contribute to achieving the Agenda 2030? We all know that we need effective collaboration, especially to generate the engagement at SDGs at your level, at my level, at schools, at colleges, and in corporate, in working areas. But me and Nitin, when we started this organization, we strongly felt that unless and until the youth takes responsibility for implementing and localizing the SDGs in their community, and that includes schools and neighborhood or friends and family, we will not be able to achieve the Agenda 2030. Having said that, a lot of people, again, parents, especially the students who work with us, who are engaged with us in various projects, and parents who are working with us or schools, they ask us, why should we contribute to something like this? Or what is in it for me? But we have to understand that the multiple benefits that results from a successful implementation of an SDG is important not just for the nation or the humanity, but it's important for our lives and our families and the community of life as a whole. It's a very simple statement, but it's very profound, that the future we want has to be created by us. And that's what these SDGs are doing for us. So at our R.I.S.E Square, while we will do a short introduction later, but every project or every event that we do with students is aligned to one or more SDGs, because they are all interconnected actually. So students are doing projects on environment like unwasting, organic gardening, recycling, upcycling, sustainable fashion, sustainable consumption, the plastic dilemma, to use or not to use, creating economic equality through slum school projects, libraries, skill building of the vulnerable, government school children mentoring, or freedom from malnutrition, or water projects. Again, like I mentioned before, focus on diversity and discrimination and inclusiveness, which includes transgenders, which includes promoting diversity in school specifically, and I'll talk about that a little later too. Doing short films on diversity, doing projects on harassment female harassment at schools or in public places, sports for underprivileged, music therapy at shelter homes, old age homes, animal care. So there are various ways, and all of these that I mentioned are connected to one or more SDGs, and it's very important. So people like you come up with innovative ideas and solutions, and we mentor them and address the opportunities for them to work towards SDGs for India. Like I said, poverty or illiteracy, inequality, and discrimination will continue to grow around us if people like you and me focus on,
that this is what I achieved rather than this is what we did for the betterment of society. So it's important that we come out of our bubble and work towards saving the humanity. Having said that, while we are sitting here, and I'm sure there's a huge number of students who are watching us today and involved with QS and with R.I.S.E and with UN organizations, I don't think we are touching even 1% of the population in India. With 356 million youth, 10 to 20-year-olds, India is, of course, the highest population of youth in the world. And the overall success of SDGs depends on the engagement with you guys, because you are critical thinkers, you're change makers, you're innovators, you're the best communicators, and you're leaders. You are empowered with the knowledge, and you have the right skills, right innovation. And I think that should be supported and strengthened. And I'm so glad QS has started this initiative. And this will go a long way in contributing to this cause. I'm quoting UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon when he gave his Youth Day message, that no one knows better than the youth the issues at stake or the best way to respond. That is why I'm calling on young people to speak out, and I'm urging leaders to listen. So here I hope when you all speak, there are people who are listening. At least we are listening. So what are some of the things that you can do? You can get involved with organizations like us who are working on localizing SDGs through youth. You can also become UN youth volunteers, join one of the UN local agencies and get involved with them. There are various ways, to get involved, and I'll tell you why. Because, and you should, because end of the day, we all know that you and me both are privileged. The fact that we are able to sit in a session like this, you are understanding English, you are understanding every word that I'm saying. You have a Wi-Fi or laptop or computer in front of you. You can actually think of ordering some good food after this session is over. You can probably think of a sweater or a heater if you're feeling cold, or you are thinking of switching on a cooler or AC if you're feeling hot. It's testimony to the fact that you are right now the privileged class. We all are. And I'm sure I don't want to bore you with statistics, but it's important to know that 68.8% of Indian population lives on less than $2 a day. And in fact, 30% have less than $1.2 per day available. And inequality in India has not gone down. In fact, it's very surprising that it has actually gone up. It has actually, between 2000 and 2017, inequality has risen 6 times. India's richest 10% own as much as 80.7% of the total wealth. There's a stark disparity between the rich and the poor, the privileged and the underprivileged. So despite we are doing very well in so many spheres, there are so many people who are not getting good meal a day. 1/3 of the world's malnourished children, in fact, live in India. We are the most, you all know, we are the most populated country after China. We are 17% of the global population and 20% of the world's out-of-school children. This, in fact, since this forum is about my sustainable campus, the fact is that a lot of you, wherever you're studying, I'm sure you've seen around you, you don't see a disabled child sitting next to you. You don't see any transgender who's sitting next to you and attending school. You don't have people with special needs from the mainstream, being part of your campus. So, which is the reality is that 35.2% of people living with disabilities are children, and India has 12 million children living with disabilities, and only 1% of them have access to school. So these are some of the things I'm sure you can do something about, since you're talking about my sustainable campus. And it's not just about infrastructure, it's about people around you. In fact, mentally, the ones who are intellectually disabled are even less, attending school even less. See, in fact, I think the last year report said 86% of seats reserved for children with disabilities are lying vacant in private school. Private school, in fact, is gaining 17 million students every year. In 5 years, government school have lost that many. So there is a huge disparity, and I'm sure you all understand that, and there is a lot that you can do about this. Again, I can go on and on with statistics, but let me go back to a small presentation that I've put together for you, which will give you a little more, which will help us understand the landscape. So can you share the presentation, please? So I'm going to run through this because I don't think we have too much time. We all know I've already introduced Orion Square, so I'm not going to get into details on this. I've already introduced the SDGs. Like I said, all the SDGs are interconnected. Whatever you choose to work on, whether it's poverty or hunger or good health or education or equality, gender equality, it's all interconnected with each other. I will skip through this because I think we don't have too much time. But just in the essence, all these SDGs are universal because they're applicable to cities, businesses, schools, organizations. That's why they are called, there is universality. They are all interconnected, all integrated towards each other. Inclusiveness, because you're trying to touch each and every, leaving no one behind. And of course, you are trying to transform in a big way. There are fundamental changes on how we live on Earth. You can actually choose to, like I said, there is work that you can do in every and each SDG, and there is so much that one can think of. It's innovation. It's you are change makers, you're innovators, and you can think of end poverty in all its forms, and that could be with education, that could be in a lot of other projects that you do. It could be actually helping your peons in schools and didis, children to actually attain good education. There are many ways one can start doing this in their own campuses. Again, zero hunger. Let me tell you, we did a project on malnutrition with some of the students, and the fact is that children in India, it's not that they do not get in nutrition. They are malnutrition. There is huge amount of malnutrition because what they are eating is momos and chips every single day. It's not that they are not eating. They are eating quite what they can in the 10-20 rupees that they earn, but they are going and choosing chips and momos and chili potato every single day. So what really happens is that it's not just their bodies that are getting impacted, their minds too. So they drop out of schools because there is not enough nutrition coming. If you eat chips, you also go ahead and eat something nutritious in your home. But what they are doing is they're not eating anything nutritious through the day. And that is causing a big issue in India. Again, ensuring good health and promoting well-being for all, and that includes old age as well. We do a lot of work with old people. Ensuring inclusive and quality education, like I was talking about in your own campuses. Question this: do you have an inclusive education in your campus? Do you have gender equality? And gender equality, I don't think we should forget the third gender. We only keep talking about male and female. While I know, yes, there's a long way to go for even female empowerment, but there are more genders than two. Ensure access to clean water and sanitation. Again, look around you. You have good sanitation and water. How many people around you have the same, including in your people who are working in your school? Sustainable and modern energy, and there's huge amount of projects that people can do, students can do on this as well, including adopting a slum around your school. Promoting inclusive and sustainable economic growth, and that would mean for everyone. That would mean for disabled, for LGBTQI, for women, for economically disadvantaged section, for minorities. Building resilient infrastructure, foster innovation. This is something that you're already, I'm sure, equipped at doing. Reduce all form of inequality. So we've already talked about that and given you a very strong statistics to this also. Make cities inclusive, safe. We very recently did a project on gender harassment at public places. And it was a very interesting project because we think that there is no harassment happening at public places, but in fact, there were very startling revelations that came out of it. And students, in fact, have made very interesting, implemented very interesting solutions to these things. These are not just projects that you can do only to question. you will be implementing, you should be implementing, whether it's social media campaigns or whether it's working with government agencies or schools or somebody at the local level to actually implement some changes. And don't think that I only impacted a small area, so it's not important. It's very important. Even that 100 meters that you impact is very important. Ensure responsible and sustainable consumption. You know how dangerous fast fashion is. In fact, that's one of our very strong focus areas, how to eliminate fast fashion and responsible consumption. Take urgent action for climate, that you all know. This is something that everybody's been talking about, but yet there's a huge amount of work that needs to be done in this. Life underwater, life in biodiversity, protect life on land. I will send you a link on a short film that we just made on this, Insi Bhaiya, which is, you can catch it on YouTube. It's called Insi Bhaiya. And this is exactly how we are destroying our biodiversity and our life on land, and how this pandemic is actually a result of the same. So do catch it if you have the time, Insi Bhaiya. There are a lot of other diversity movies also that we have put on our R.I.S.E channel. You can look at that as well. Yes, and then there is inclusive, revitalize the global partnership and inclusive institutions. So like I said, each goal is important and all of them are connected. And we, of course, while QS was talking about the events, we just did a youth impact event, which was on SDGs, which was for students in NCR, Delhi NCR, to develop societal consciousness and SDG implementation through creative writing, short film, and case study. And we will be doing that on other parts of India as well. And do catch us on, I will share our social media channels to join us here. So Youth Impact was a discovery process and also implementation through creative writing and short films for SDGs. Again, we did a very prestigious global forum recently, which was specifically on youth and diversity and inclusion, and which was a forum that fosters an ethos of diversity and inclusion. And there were international thought leaders who were present here, government, UNDP, UNB officials, as well as many CEOs and role models. Again, like I mentioned before, there are projects that you can do online. You can join us for volunteering or doing a long-term project online, which focus on social impact, and these are specifically on SDGs. So all the information is available on our social media channels, Orion Youth, Orion Square, the Orion Org on Facebook or on LinkedIn. You can also write to me directly at jyotika@theorion.org to get more information, and I'll be happy to talk to you at any point in time. So can we stop sharing the presentation? Yes. So with this, I think I come to an end of the presentation. I'm sure I don't think I have more time than right now, but I want to congratulate again all of you for being here. I want to wish you all the best for whatever that you take up in whichever way, small or big, it doesn't matter. Do adapt the SDGs. Do ensure that your schools, parents, your friends, family, they understand what the SDGs are, and they take up small things with you, how we can help the environment, humanity, and whatever issue that you take up. Yeah, all the best.
So that was splendid. Thank you so much, Mrs. Jyotika Dhawan, and thank you so much for sharing your valuable insights into SDG. And there are a few points, those were really the eye openers right now at this point of time, especially while you talked about the 17 SDGs that are UN proposed. And I hope that we could have had more time for a very much, lengthy discussion. So we look forward to welcoming you to the future sessions if there is anything to work on. And also, the point about the privileges. So I also personally think that we need to keep on educate our current and future generations about the privileges that we carry or we do enjoy And these are something that a major chunk of our population doesn't have the kind of access to the privileges. So this is something definitely we need to keep teaching our future generation. So thank you so much for that. And also I would like to proudly say that I'm so proud to be a part of QS iGauge, those who take these kind of initiatives. And now I also would like to be a part of, the participants. I wish that we will take this initiative with Orion, this initiative to the greater heights. Okay. So once again, thank you so much, Jyotika. Okay. And
I look forward to being in touch, and I look forward to assisting in whatever way that I can. And that, again, congratulate you for the initiative and a wonderful platform that you have provided. Congrats again. Thank you.
Thank you, Jyotika. Thank you once again. And hi all. Now I think we will go to the move to the main agenda of the today's session, which is the panel discussion between the students. There is a vibrant panel of students those are present here, headed by Mr. Dhruv Jati. So now I would like to introduce and welcome Mr. Dhruv Jati, who is moderating today's session. I'm pretty sure that the schools representatives or the students from Bangalore, you know Mr. Dhruv. I don't have to introduce him, but to those who doesn't know him, Mr. Dhruv is a third-year BA student in Jindal School of International Affairs, and he is the founder of Bangalore Student Community, mass student-led humanitarian organization. Dhruv and Bangalore Student Community are currently working on SDG 4, quality education, and it is the implementation in North Karnataka. So they are working on the Sustainable Development Goal 4, which is one of the 17 pretty sure that SDGs as proposed by the United Nations. And apart from their goal to help improve infrastructure and creating a holistic environment for students to study. So their 2021 plan is going to include a mechanism to bridge students from Bangalore urban to Bangalore rural through and out of the syllabus program. So we are eagerly looking forward to know more about that details, Dhruv. And Bangalore urban students can complete community service hours by teaching rural students on gender equality, social stigma, importance of mental health, and leadership programs. So Dhruv's end-to-end goal is to create leaders in both the urban and rural spaces of Karnataka, which really goes hand in hand with the SDGs and the proposed SDGs by the United Nations. We wish you all the best, Dhruv and team, and I would like to welcome Mr. Dhruv Jati to the session. Dhruv, over to you.
Thank you so much, Arun and QS iGAUGE, for having me here today. Welcome to India's first ever student-led national discussion on sustainable campuses. On today's panel, we have some of the brightest ideators from different parts of India. So let me introduce our first panelist, Mustafa Zamir from Lucknow. He studies in City Montessori. He's age 17 and currently in grade 12. A passionate student who connects SDGs with the 21st century. Next up is Ananya, who is joining us from Assam, Guwahati. She's a class 12 humanities student who believes in being a change maker in the long run. She believes in having to understand the social divide and how it must be dealt at the very crucial school level itself. Next, we have Arav Mohan. Thank you, Ananya, for being here with us. We have Arav Mohan, a CIS student from grade 12, joining us from Bengaluru. He's a young, dynamic leader and an inspiration to many within his school. Prior, he's been involved in various humanitarian activities within Bangalore city, encompassing the migrant labor crisis to also helping around with animals right around his home. We have Om Kirpadi as well from Bengaluru, who is a student from Vidyashilp Academy. He's in grade 12, and Om is a creative thinker who plans to get into the field of business. A very interesting combination in which he believes he can utilize his artistic skill program that he believes in to create design products that can tackle problems we face on a daily basis related to the Sustainable Development Goals. Lastly, we have Anushka, our youngest ideator on today's panel. She's joining us from Dehradun, and she is a national rifle shooter. She's motivated towards implementing the SDGs around her because she's concerned about issues such as pollution, working on safeguarding the ecosystems, and we're looking forward to a very exciting panel discussion today. So, without further ado, let's understand what these young minds have to offer on table. We'll begin with Mustafa.
Thank you very much. As you know, I am Mustafa Zamir, and I'm from City Montessori School, Lucknow, Rajiv Nagar campus. And well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm quite motivated to actually be a part of this discussion organized by QS. And well, we know that this topic is a very hot button one, and a farrago of opinions, and facts and myths are already on our table to discuss on sustainability. And this topic is making headlines throughout the world. Ever since the United States of America has withdrawn from Paris Agreement 2015, the world is in a dilemma as to how we go forward with the issues raging throughout the world. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm quite motivated by a lot of people around me to actually come and discuss upon these topics. And well, I can say that Greta Thunberg of Sweden, she's the one, you all must be knowing her, that she actually challenged world leaders at United Nations Forum, and accusing them of taking very little steps when it comes to climate action and climate change. So I'm quite amazed by her, and I'm quite motivated. uh, Another person to motivate me is my class teacher herself, Ma'am Shashwati, and Deepti ma'am too. So they are an inspiration to me because they are working throughout in the campus, giving views and organizing events where students come in and pitch in their cash in their talents when it comes to giving opinions on the issues on the environment. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, so thank you so much for making me a part of this discussion. And should I start, sir?
Yes, Mustafa,
To
please,
give
please
my
begin with your idea.
Okay, thank you so much. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think the schools in which we are studying, they are quite old-fashioned. Old-fashioned in the sense that, of course, the buildings may be new or they may be centuries old, but that does not matter. But when it comes to the curriculum, when it comes to the pedagogy, that is pretty old because it is made for an industrial society, which is that no longer exists today. And I would say that do not have a paradigm shift in our mentality when it comes to to face the jeopardy which this 21st century is facing. And I'm not saying that our school should not be career oriented. I'm not saying that we should not teach arithmetic and physics in our schools. I'm not saying anything of that, but I would say that our schools aren't that innovative in one sense. So, number one, we need to have the shift in purpose. We need to design our schools for the purpose of creating a sustainable future. And as it is said, the schools should, think globally and act locally, and actually teach SDGs to students so that they achieve them and they become policy makers, right? So, and immediate threats would be, we know that it's on food security, as ma'am mentioned, water availability of health and infrastructure. So for formation of eco clubs, I would say within the school community would be one option. And we need to actually see that there has to be a public private partnership as well, grants to each of these eco clubs, schools and colleges for undertaking various eco friendly initiatives and activities. That can be an idea, and as an opinion I'm actually putting forth over here. And then a school of climate change and sustainability should be there, should be created with an aim to actually train human resources capable of addressing and managing emerging challenges facing the nation and the world. So yes, ladies and gentlemen. So one more thing I would add, just that the best practices can be that monitoring of energy conservation, waste and water, linking of sustainable management system, and education facility program in the curriculum which we're having in our school. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, I firmly believe and vehemently support these arguments. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mustafa. I really like how you came out to explain that eco clubs in schools should have some sort of private-public partnerships. This is very crucial. We see it at a college level where these clubs receive some sort of external funding, but in school levels they're usually dependent on the school itself to sustain. But once there's some intervention from outside, it becomes a bit more easier for these eco clubs to grow. I thank you for bringing across that point. It's very valuable to today's conversation. So next up, let's listen to what Ananya has to say from Guwahati. She's worked on sustainable development goals prior to this, and she's one of our seasoned panelists, is what I would say. Over to you, Ananya.
Thank you, sir. Now, when I think about the Sustainable Development Goals as a whole, we have to understand that they're very situation specific, I'd say, as of now, because we come from different parts of the country. We come from different schools that are oriented differently, that have different provisions in them. So in that, perhaps I agree with what Mustafa just said. I agree that there needs to be a shift in thought, and I agree that we need to start teaching SDGs to kids. Now, when we teach them to our students, we need to understand that we need to start from quite earlier classes, I'd say. We need to teach them about, as Jyotika ma'am had said, the privilege that they have, and to act on that privilege, because that is what is important, I'd say. So what we need to do is we need to teach them to value their resources. We need to teach them how to conserve those resources and how to go ahead with it and the current climate that we live in. Beyond that, I am quite moved by the Sustainable Development Goal on gender equality. And in that, there's a deep need to teach students about what exists out in the real world. And in a sense, we should sensitize them as it is age appropriate across classes. We need to sensitize them about the power dynamic that exists in society, perhaps. And as well as, like ma'am said, to take up projects on harassment and to go ahead with that. Perhaps we could introduce assemblies which solely talk about or encourage students to come forward and say, look, I've done this today, or this is something that we can do, and which encourages people to come forward and give more ideas. Of course, there's a lot that can be discussed in this panel discussion, and I'm quite excited to listen to what everyone has to say. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ananya. That was very interesting. Your point on assemblies and how people should actually come together in some forum and discuss their ideas on protection of women is a crucial point again that you've brought up. So I just want to inform the viewers who have tuned in today. Feel free to ask in your questions in the chat box. The floor is open for all the panelists that are here. So let's move on to Anushka now, who's joining us from Dehradun. Anushka, tell me more about your idea of sustainable campuses and what you think is a viable and a feasible implementation according to you.
So according to me, I would like to start with a thought given by Gandhi ji, the father of a nation. Like earth has enough for human need, but not enough for human greed. So nowadays, all the people are using resources that they will be getting every day. They are not thinking about like the resources need to be like retreated. They will take time to regrow. But the human nowadays are not giving them time to regenerate, and this is how we are like exploiting the resources at a level. So I would like to say that sustainable development is a development that needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generation to meet their own needs. So our school has done many things to get sustainable development, and they are planning to do so. So I would like to say about clean water and sanitization. So the clean water and sanitization, I would like to start with. We have a sewage treatment plant in which the crushed waste of a kitchen is sent there, and from there we get the recycled water which is used for irrigation. And this is how we are not wasting the kitchen waste and sending it to the disposal area. Second, I would like to say about the rainwater harvesting unit. We have 3 rainwater harvesting unit, and this monsoon will be the first one to experience it in 2021. And we our school is reusing the waste in many ways. Like they are using the orange peel as face mask. Like everyone knows, like orange peel is very good in vitamin C, so every girl needs like a face pack, so they are reusing it while they dry up the orange peel and use it as a face mask. And the same goes with rose peel also. So the rose peels which are like dried and all, so they take out from the rose plant and dried up, and they used as face mask. And another, like banana peels, the banana peels we get from a like food break, so the banana peel doesn't goes up to the dustbin. We cut them into pieces and use them as manure for ornamental plants. Same goes with the fallen leaves. Fallen leaves are collected and composted and converted into manure, which is also used for ornamental plants. And like our school participated in waste warrior organization, which was organized by Dehradun in 2016. So our school teacher was awarded the best achievement award, and they were given 7 projects. So I would like to tell you about some of them. So my teachers informed students that junk food is means organic food is better than junk food, and what is the importance of organic food. And she also told us about like what they have created from waste. Like they created wrapping paper, then they created dustbin, etc. And like the kitchen waste is also crushed and used as.
Okay, I think we just lost Anushka here for a quick second. We'll try patching back. Meanwhile, I'll just speak a bit more about what she had to say. So Unison School, their contributions must be highly appreciated towards the Sustainable Development Goals and towards India's contributions as a whole towards Sustainable Development Goals. They've in fact touched on a crucial point such as biodiversity, which is something that we find very, very less in number. We have very few institutions that tackle biodiversity in today's CSR mode, or even through different clubs. So while we try to patch Anushka back, we'll move on to Om. Om is joining us from Bengaluru. He's from Vidya Shilp Academy. Om Kilpani, please tell me what you have to say about implementing SDGs in your campus. If I'm not too wrong, you believe a bit in the energy sector and in the solar sector.
Yeah, thank you for this opportunity. I'm really happy to be here. And yes, today I would like to focus on improving my campus with the help of SDG number 7, which states affordable and clean energy for all. This ensures access to affordable, reliable, and modern energy for all, implemented on campuses as well as schools, starting with mine. So on the surface level, there is a solution that I'm sure many of you have heard of. With the advent of technology, we're seeing the rise and growth of alternative sources to energy. One of them being the use of the sun in the form of solar panels. So I actually had the chance to speak to a few school managers and interview them. And I was able to gather some information regarding their electricity consumption. So to state a few facts, and on average, schools with a population of 2,000 students, they spend about rupees 80,000 on electricity consumption per month, consuming a large 5,000 units on a 15-acre campus. So most electricity in Bangalore is produced thermally through burning of fossil fuels, leaving behind a rather huge carbon footprint. These fossil fuels produce harmful emissions that I'm sure you're all aware of, affect the quality of air, water, soil, and are responsible for global warming. So production from coal and natural gases at a thermal level account for 20% of carbon dioxide emissions, which we know is not good at all. So now the benefits of what I am suggesting, the use of these panels, they could reduce the effects of carbon dioxide emissions significantly by cutting down the use of natural gases and switching to clean and stored energy. This power is 100% clean, and it's a renewable energy source, which reduces reliance on oil, coal, and natural gas for electricity production. So now there's the matter of the cost. Schools that can't afford to keep paying their bills, like install these huge panels, spend crores of rupees. So the solution for this is a PPA agreement. It stands for a solar power purchase agreement. It's an agreement where you don't buy the solar panels, you lease them. So this is a solution for the slightly lower end schools with a relatively smaller budget, where they get to lease these panels and get to. So I have actually had in our country forward. So I hope these schemes can be implemented soon. Thank you.
All right, thank you. You've come up with a couple of very good points when we speak about the PPA agreement. It's something that can actually be taken on in a state level scale and then be implemented in pan India. It's a great thought, in fact. If you look at the rural sides of India, it's a project that even I work on the side. So you actually witness that electricity is a huge problem over there, where after a certain period of time, the students actually don't get electricity, maybe for 6 o'clock, or the regular cuts that happen. So their education is disrupted to a very large level, and most of these students also are working at the same time in order to provide bread to their family. So they find time to study at night, but if they don't have enough electricity, then that's a hassle. So this is a very interesting plan, Om. I thank you for putting that forward. Just before we move on to Arav, we'll get back to Anushka, who we lost a while back. So Anushka, you were speaking something very interesting about biodiversity and what Unison had done. So just intrigue us more about what you had to say.
Thank you, Mr. Drew, for giving me another chance. And so I would like to continue with my speech. Like our school is also like using all the waste, and like we have in like partnership with other foreign schools. So whenever they are coming to our school for exchange programs, so we are telling them the importance of the waste, and they are making new things from waste. So we aren't using like non-renewable resources to get other things. And so now like our school has taken an oath, like we have in Waste Warrior Club, and which have taken an oath from Green School organization to like protect the environment and to promote sustainable development. So like the same replica was created and pasted in each class to promote sustainable development and to like support SDG. And like our school is doing many things, and like they don't use resources, they don't use artificial energy. So as everyone know, like Dehradun is located in a cities which is full of valleys, so we get electricity from hydropower. Also we have solar panels also. Solar panels are like one-time investment, and we can get energy every time. And indirectly we are saving coal, and we are not polluting the environment. Therefore, our school is planning to install like pollution controlling device, and we also get energy from thermal energy. And so like solar energy like is used in many ways, such as solar light, and we also have solar bulbs and all. And we in the winters we use solar heaters too. And the next point I would like to say, like the good health and well-being. Good health and well-being is very important for everyone, because like it's the key point of a school. And our school has also collaborated with Max Hospital for regular medical care and checkups. And the counseling sessions also happen. And like if anyone is allergic to anything, like if one is allergic to wheat, so our school will take the initiative to like prepare food which doesn't contain wheat, and they will allow like the parents to give them the ingredients to do it. So our school is taking full initiative to like promote well-being. And we also like so we live in a boarding school, so everyone gets frustrated after like staying for a month or two. So our school also organizes a trip where the students of class grade means according to the grade go out of the school for a trek and all, to refresh their mind, because this is also very important for a well-being and good mind. And the teachers which are staying in this school are like they have motherly feeling. And I would like to say that this my teacher, I am an EVS student. So my teacher, Miss Selva, Miss Nidhi, and Miss Udesh helped me a lot to do this. And they are having a motherly feeling which motivates the students to stay in a boarding school and which makes them like feel easier to settle down there. And I will now like to say about quality of education. So education treated by a school is a very high quality. The school has good facility and highly qualified and experienced teacher to put
Anushka, you were mentioning something. You were mentioning something about biodiversity in the beginning, about your idea of biodiversity. How exactly you think that it could be implemented? So in a few lines, if you can just conclude by explaining, according to you, what should be done in your campus.
So as I already said, that our school has taken as it is many initiatives, but they are planning to do so. Like we are preserving biodiversity in a way, like our school is a vegetarian school and they don't allow means anything that is non-veg. So they are saving the animals and they can be used in the further generation. And we are also promoting, like our school is located in an area which is full of greenery, and we also support greenery, and we have like many trees and plants you can see in our website. And
that's lovely. That's lovely. That's very nice to hear. That's very nice to hear. The contributions of your school have been, in fact, fantastic, and your ideas to make your school more sustainable is extremely, extremely overwhelming. Thank you, Anushka. So let's move on to our last panelist, who is R.I.S.E. Mohan from Canadian International School, Bangalore. R.I.S.E., please explain what you have to say about sustainable campuses and how it could be implemented.
Number one, I'd just like to thank Dhruv and QS IGAUGE for this lovely opportunity to really provide a platform, I think, for a discussion that's essential to saving our planet. So now what's my idea of a sustainable campus, right? I think a campus is characterized by its students and faculty. And the first step is awareness, right? So as both Mustafa and Ananya mentioned, I think an essential part is integrating the SDGs into our curriculum, but going further to explain the effect of climate change in a practical manner to our students, right? Because the abstract concept of the world ending, that's easy to take, but the idea of seeing it would help students better understand why we need to work hard to protect our planet. Now, onto a sustainable campus. How do I think that should work? I think the best sustainable campus goes after SDG 11, which is sustainable cities and communities, right? Building a living ecosystem that is self-reliant is essential, right? Solar panels, as Om said, are a great example of alternative energy sources. But another great one is biogas, right? And I think alternative energy efficiency is extremely important on campus because, as again Om mentioned, campuses use up a lot of energy. And to ensure that we're being clean with the energy we use is important. Another idea would be daylighting, right? Using daylight, especially since most schools occur during the day, can be a great way to improve student mental health and also lower the use of energy. So moving on, I would like to talk about creating campus gardens. Right? I think growing food on campus is one of the greatest things a school could do. It uses a lot of the natural resources that a school already has, which is land, right? And it also helps wasted food the students produce to go back as fertilizer to produce more food. So it creates, again, a self-reliant ecosystem, something that I think is essential when you're going after the SDGs. Another step would be water, right? Using different strategies such as water-efficient toilets and filters that make taps more efficient, lowering water wastage is essential. And rainwater harvesting, a great way to fuel irrigation for campus gardens. Again, another strain of campus viability. Community. I think, as Ms. Jyotika said, a great importance is we have to acknowledge the privilege we possess as students of these great international schools, right? Building a sense of community around the idea of sustainability on campus and encouraging students to form committees and groups, discuss how the campus can be more energy efficient and resource efficient is essential. And I'll tell you why, because mainly it encourages students to think about the idea of sustainability, right? But also it helps them come up with innovative new ideas that I don't think adults can think of, right? Because students provide this unique perspective that I think, especially in groups and committees, can work out great towards energy efficiency. So those are just some of my smaller ideas, but I think overall, a sustainable campus has one essential point, and that is community, right? It's not only about building a sense of community around sustainability, but building a sense of community as a whole. A team that works together does the most work. And to have students work together as a community to achieve sustainability, I think that's how we're going to get through everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Arav. In fact, there's a comment from one of the participants who says that integrating SDGs into our curriculum by Arav. True. Looking at how we consist of the urban crowd and we're urban students. SDG number 11, sustainable cities and communities, is very relevant to us. And so we are just going to enter a bit of the conclusion part of this session. Let me ask you a few questions. All right. So let's head to the Secretary General of the United Nations today. What is the one thing that that you would change? All right, I'll just repeat myself. Mustafa, if you were the United Nations Secretary General today, what is the one thing that you would want to change? Mustafa, I'm just not able to hear you. If you'll have to repeat yourself.
Sorry, am I audible?
Yes.
I'm audible. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So yes, if I were the Secretary General of United Nations, my first job would be to actually have a consensus among nations on the issue of climate change, because I think that is the elephant in the room. That if we have consensus on the policies on climate change, and I think a number of other issues will automatically be solved, right? So what I'm finding these days among nations is that they're lacking consensus among themselves, because the nations are becoming more and more populist, right? We have certain leaders out there who, driven by their political agendas, driven by their politics, are populist, right? Populism. I hope the panel out
Yes,
there knows
Mustafa, that's an interesting concept. But I'm trying to say, if you were the Secretary General, what is one thing that you would change for students? Okay, so I'm thinking.
Yes, so I would definitely want the students as well as various other schools to actually be a part of United Nations in some or the other way, not directly sitting in any particular body of the United Nations, but actually having a direct link with the United Nations. Right, you have UNICEF, you have WHO. So I would definitely want more and more transparency in these organizations so that they can incorporate the ideas of students as well. Because we have seen recently in many countries that the students are coming out as lawsuits, right? Filing lawsuits in the Supreme Court of their various countries, right? We know a very I'm remembered.
That's true. That's true. I get what you're saying. So that's a very interesting point that you have brought to this. So
just one reminder out here to the panel that there was just one. I'll take just 10 seconds. Just 10 seconds, if you could allow. Yeah. So
sure.
There was this case, Juliana versus the United States, and what happened in that case, that around 15 children, filed a lawsuit in the Supreme Court of United States. But what happened, that ultimately the suit was declined. They were not given chance to speak in court. This happened in the 90s, right? So you see, we need to have consensus. Consensus is very important part, be it judiciary, be it executive. So as a secretary, I would definitely would like to have more and more consensus so that the impasse can be, removed in one sense.
Yes. Thank you, Mustafa. So now that we have just hit our 1 hour mark, I will conclude with the remarks for today's session. I thank you all for being here with QS IGAUGE today. I think platforms like these is which we can actually bring the change makers out. So I hope you go back to your classrooms tomorrow morning and motivate your your fellow classmates on working towards a sustainable development goal, it's very simple. All you have to do is tell them, think of one problem that you feel troubles you, relate it to a sustainable development goal, and see how you can tackle it. So if we as individuals can tackle these SDGs, then together as a nation we can do much more. So in conclusion, I would like to conclude with what Mustafa had said that caught my eyes, in fact. So he said, think globally and act locally. So this is going to be the conclusion remarks for today, and it's an extremely lovely panel that we had. Thank you all for joining, and for everybody who is tuned in today from outside, please subscribe to QS and stay updated on the events that are following, especially for our January and February 2021 launch of the QS Sustainable Campuses project. I wish you all a very, very good day ahead.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be a part of such a wonderful discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Devu, for the lovely conversation.
Thank you.
Good afternoon and welcome to a virtual panel discussion on the topic of faculty well-being and development. My name is R.I.S.E and I'm a research analyst at QS IGAUGE. Since the lockdown initiated in March 2020, QS IGAUGE has been actively hosting online events on various areas pertaining to the Indian higher education sector. Today's webinar is especially important to us as we unfold a new topic of mental health and well-being of the faculty across the world. We recently conducted a survey of a sample group of faculty members across public and private universities and colleges and India, who provided us a very insightful and honest feedback on their perspective and approach towards online teaching and learning and how it impacts their health and well-being in general. In today's panel discussion, we've invited speakers to shed light on this topic. They would be introduced shortly by Dr. Ashwin Fernandez, who would be moderating this session. But before we begin with this panel discussion, I wish to demonstrate some of the key findings based on our survey. These inputs would further help us in shaping our discussion. I'll be sharing my presentation now. So the findings of the survey have been collated into a comprehensive report named Anxious Academia, which is now available across all our platforms. It has also been covered by popular channels like Times of India, The Week, etc. First and foremost, an overview of the report. Over 2,200 faculty across the country responded to our survey, and our report highlights the following aspects: anxiety and stress in online teaching, changes in interpersonal relationships, tech support and challenges, faculty recommendations and best practices, and mental health and well-being of faculty. Then, so we'll first start with anxiety and stress during online teaching. Approximately 46% indicated that they experienced an increase in fatigue post the shift to online teaching. And also, about 60% faculty said that they had an increased anxiety and stress since the onset of online teaching. Then comes changes in interpersonal relationships. The relationships of faculty with their students, colleagues, and administration have in general indicated a positive trend. However, it was concerning that compared to their colleagues in administration.
Aishwarya, sorry to interrupt you. Your voice is breaking. If you could please stay closer to the mic because we are not able to hear you. Thank you.
Sure. Next is changes in interpersonal relationships. So the relationships of faculty with their colleagues, students, and administration has in general indicated a positive trend. However, it was concerning that compared to their colleagues and administration, the relationship of their faculty with the students worsened for 17% faculty members. Then comes tech support and challenges. It was good to know that 87% faculty received a proper training and tech support from their institution. Some of the most common tech challenges were issues with internet connectivity, navigation on LMS platforms, interrupted power supply, and lack of adequate IT accessories. Next is challenges faced by faculty. The biggest challenge faced by the faculty turned out to be attention span of students. Over 70% faculty indicated that they struggled to sustain the attention span of students in the online classes. This was accompanied by class interaction, then followed by managing student groups and adjusting to online teaching methods and tools. Lastly, faculty recommendations. Overall, the faculty recommended 5 core areas which are crucial for any institution and should be addressed efficiently for a seamless and smoother online teaching and learning experience. First, improved and upgraded infrastructure. Second, efficient and user-friendly LMS. Third, enhanced communication and management. Fourth, efforts taken by the administration to ensure faculty well-being. And fifth, training, tech support, and skill development. This brings us to the end of our presentation. We've also produced other interesting reports which are now available on our website, www.igauge.in. Our current report, Anxious Academia, is also available on our website. So now it's time to begin with our panel discussion. I invite Dr. Ashwin Fernandez to take this event forward. Over to you, Ashwin.
Thank you so much, Aishwarya. And it's very interesting insights you have brought to us today. I would like to welcome all of you joining us on YouTube and also on other platforms which we have gone live or will be going live in a short period of time. Thank you for joining us for this roundtable with 2 esteemed guests we have today talking about faculty well-being and development. So without any delay, let me first introduce our first panelist, Dr. Arvinder Singh, who is a mental health practitioner with over 20 years of experience, educated in India and abroad. And her mission has been to bring the best mental health practices to India while promoting a narrative of well-being. She's currently the director for Ashoka Center for Wellbeing at Ashoka University. She has also been part of many projects where she has supported traumatized populations affected by disasters and other challenges. We are truly delighted to have with us Dr. Singh today. Welcome, Dr. Arvinder Singh.
Thank you very much. I'm as delighted as you are to be at this platform and share our insights and talk more about mental health.
Brilliant. Our next panelist, all the way from Australia, Professor Catherine Bennett. She's trained in epidemiology and population genetics. I had to Google that word, and for those who do not know, an epidemiologist is often referred to as a disease detective. So Professor Bennett's career cuts across government and university roles with a focus on contributing knowledge that drives change for good in clinical and public health contexts. She has been a leading public health expert in the COVID-19 response, involved in collaborations which are examining the direct and indirect mortality across over 30 countries, and also the evidence behind the public health policy decisions. Professor Catherine Bennett is the inaugural chair in epidemiology at the Deakin University, Australia. We are so glad, Professor Catherine, you decided, you agreed to come with us today on this live panel, even though it's an odd hour for you in the evening. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I do agree with Dr. Singh. This is an incredibly important area in terms of the major shifts we've seen across faculty and the impacts of COVID on our teaching programs in particular. So I'm very pleased that you have been doing such important work, and to be able to share this across countries as well as some of the things we're all learning and we're all trying to work with to get that better outcome for all of our academics.
Thank you so much, Professor Catherine. So as the report which we just released today, which was covered by most of the national dailies in India, showcases that 60% of those surveyed have seen an increase in stress levels, with over 9% showcasing a sharp increase. Also, 46% of them have seen increased fatigue and exhaustion post the shift to online teaching. So is that alarming? I would like to pose that question to Dr. Singh. What are your initial thoughts on these numbers, and how do you think it will affect academia in the long term?
Well, to answer your question first about if it is alarming, yes, of course it is alarming, because it's, let's just look at it. Whereas stress has been a very normal part of everybody's daily living, and if we were to really look at anxiety, I sort of be bold and say that each one of us is on a spectrum there, right? So, but the fact is that the pandemic, the uncertainty, the health anxiety, the anxiety around our health has increased so much that it has overall increased. So if we were to see the spectrum of stress to crisis, we say stress, and then the undealt with stress becomes distress, and that distress which compounds becomes crisis. So people who've had, there is enough research body to show that people who had mild kind of stress or anxiety have, due to the pandemic and during the pandemic, moved into the moderate and severe spectrum of, depression and anxiety both. Anxiety being the top of the charts for the most obvious reasons. So yes, it is alarming, and I think we need to take cognizance. What was the second part of the question you raised to me, Ashwin? I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
And how will it impact academia in the long term?
Well, impacting academia in the long term, of course, what's happening now will have ripple effects. So the whole process of online teaching and learning has actually changed the way, the teacher and the taught are engaging. So as a psychologist, I'm interested in that part as well, because that there was, one of the parts of your survey which talked about the interpersonal relationships. So it has changed because there's a lot of stress that is coming on the students as well as the academia. And what I find is that willy-nilly the faculty has moved into the role also of being sort of the frontline workers for the students, right? So they're also, other than the study part, they've also had to handle the emotional distress that the students are going through. And let alone their own distress for the various reasons that is there. So handling that has also changed the way the whole learning process is being looked at. So we've always had online, but the kind of lack of choice that's there, because it's not, it's been totally substituted for the person-to-person or in-person contact, and there's a lot of loss of that whole that interaction, the spontaneity, the way questions are asked or gazes are glanced, or, the way groups are formed, that kind of energy has become transformed, and it has changed into a more, I wouldn't say like totally just didactic way, but kind of directive form of teaching because of online. So that's a large thing that I would like to present here.
I mean, it's interesting you mentioned that the role of the tutor or the faculty member has become more than just delivering the lecture, but also supporting the student in terms of the stress levels coming from the other side. Over to Professor Catherine. I mean, what have we seen in Australia? And in the early days of the pandemic, we've seen that Australia was well equipped because online component in the teaching process was well adopted many years ago, whereas for India it was just thrown at it was a surprise, and we had to put stopgap measures. So do you think that has impacted Australia, or what does your study show, Professor Catherine?
It's very interesting because universities are very different across Australia. Some have, like Deakin University, my university, have really invested in their online teaching, their cloud teaching, and that's been a major piece of work. And so we'd moved from perhaps just putting our lectures, into talking PowerPoints, to a much more sophisticated interactive platform. But we still have, even at Deakin, a lot of students that choose face-to-face because that's their preferred learning. They're not comfortable in the computer world and in the cloud. And so what changed for us was that we actually had to move every subject pretty much, has an online version, but not all. We also have some that were taught in intensive mode and really built on face-to-face, particularly our laboratory work and so on. So there was still that big challenge at the start about how we're going to do this, how we're going to put everything online, and then how we're going to bring all those students with us who are going to find this stressful when we're already stressed. So we've done a lot of work looking at academic stress levels in Australia over the years, and they've been increasing. So this is against a background where we already had our faculty feeling that their workload was changing, that they were needing to do a lot more high technology work, learn new skills, and suddenly that's accelerated. And at other universities, that was even more so because these were people sometimes who'd never actually had to teach online at all and didn't have the technology skills, let alone the sort of pedagogy skills to understand how you translate the interaction you have in the classroom, as Dr. Singh described, that spontaneity, that ability for one student to stimulate another student's thinking or questioning. You lose that when you're online unless you know how to foster that. So I think this came in different phases, and if you did your survey at different time points, you'd get different answers from the same people, because that initial thing about the fear about how this could work, and then how it did transition, and then just the incredible workload where you're trying to take this current semester's teaching and get it online and do it well, and then have to provide additional support for your students because you can see they're struggling. So I think it kind of came in waves. It kept building. It didn't kind of release because you just went from one challenge to the next. And at the end of the day, I think it's extraordinary what our faculty have done, and it's equally important that we recognise how difficult it was, as well as recognising how extraordinarily well a lot of people did. But what I was really interested in your own survey was the extra challenges with unreliable infrastructure. So, particularly when you don't have reliable internet. And so that's something that a lot of work have been going into recently in Australia, and now fortunately our platforms stood up and most people's internet stood up as well and could cope. But trying to put 55, 60,000 students all online, we weren't even sure if the university's own platforms, teaching platforms, could support that. So very scary times at times.
Thank you so much, Professor Catherine. I would like to have a follow-up for you there. And this is because, there is this publish or perish. We're going into the research side, where universities have always pushed faculty to publish more. And we're yet to see the outcome of this year's research output for various countries, but it shows that it hasn't been impacted so far. So do you think that also caused, and I know Australia takes research, especially because that impacts rankings, and rankings impacts the decision of students to go into Australia. So do you think that has further, was that any role to play for additional stress for faculty in Australia or around the world?
Absolutely. We had a lot of disruption to our research. There's been some very good surveys done that actually highlight how many projects were actually either deferred or delayed or disrupted or had to be redesigned. We did a focus survey on research staff in our Institute for Health Transformation. We have, being in public health, we have a very feminised workforce. So we do have a lot of women and young women who work in our research teams, and a lot of them are casual and contract workers. So they had great uncertainty because the impact financially on the universities has been extraordinary in Australia. We've had a an increase in our domestic students. So our student load may not change, but we have, of course, had an impact on our international students as well. So we've actually had a real shift in the students that could be in the classroom, or we, for the first time, we're teaching our international students remotely online, which was a challenge in itself. But we also had some unexpected challenges when schools were closed. So our mothers, who were also our faculty, had their children at home with them when they were trying to teach online, and they might be trying to work with students anywhere in the world and be looking after their 5-year-old who can't be in daycare or in school. So there were some real challenges there, and those that were parents probably had the most difficulty in adjusting to not just being online but working from their own home and having everyone from their family in their own home because they couldn't go to work or to school. So that was very difficult. But some people, and I would include myself, you adapted to that, and our online world did work quite well with this sort of connectivity that we have tonight. We saved travel time, so people actually reported increased productivity, and the government was very keen to support research in a whole range of areas that would help us in our COVID response. And so there were some grant opportunities that came out of that got some of our even earlier career researchers engaged actively in the COVID response with some funded grants. So at this stage, it might not show in the outputs, but we've also lost a lot of our casual researchers. And so there's going to be, again, thinking about how the teaching changes our long-term view, but also what happens in our research will also change not just the experience of our young researchers now trying to build a track record, but also how attractive this career is for people, bright young people in school. Will they still see this as attractive because they're seeing in the media all the time, universities laying off staff, and that is particularly our teaching and research staff. So there is a risk that the impacts of COVID, the financial impacts and the short-term stress and all the other things that have gone on with it we will lose people from the faculty, and we will also not always, I guess, know the impact on whether people will still see that as the career option, which will keep us, growing our faculty in future.
Oh, that's a very interesting point. So I would like to go over to Dr. Arvinder, because in what we have found, and there are two parts to my question to you, and both are coming as a follow-up from Catherine's points there, is 41% of the respondents we had were females. So definitely, while majority of them have to manage a home, have the stress levels at home, had to also take on online teaching. So what do you think in India, what is, in your opinion, in your university or universities, how has that impacted women faculty members? And would this be a career of choice in the future for women to take up academia or get into teaching or research or sort of careers like this?
Yeah. Well, yes, it has impacted. And as you see, as what Professor Bennett shared, I mean, that the issues are pretty much similar in terms of women, mothers, and in India we especially are very, very lucky to have help easily available, which of course was not available while during this pandemic time. Lockdown, the lack of space, the parenting role doubling up, no extra support has led to a lot of challenges. But I wouldn't go as far to say that it wouldn't be the chosen career for women, or it would impact that choice, because I strongly believe that people who choose a career such as this, also it's a space which comes from the heart, and this is a space where each one of us is learning to sort of navigate and see that this is not permanent and this is temporary and this too shall pass, and trying to sort of build on the well-being part of it, of our own selves, to be able to just tide over this crisis period, as I would call it.
Okay. And a follow-up to that would be, is the infrastructure in India. And I think we've all, in the early days, we were all doing webinars, and I would get disconnected at least twice during the session, even though I'm living in the metropolitan Bangalore. So I think when we look at faculty who are probably working from home, what what could institutions do, or what faculty could do to overcome these challenges? Because these are problems to do with infrastructure, the service providers, and so on. So, and there could be several amounts of stress associated with this as well. So, any particular piece of advice you have for this, or any outcomes you think from your own experience?
Sure. See, at Ashoka, there is a diversity in students, and we have students from all over the world, different countries, different cities, small little villages of India, and everywhere in the world. And therefore, connectivity for many of our students is a big issue. And the same way for the teaching faculty. What we really talk about all the time is to just actually cut ourselves some slack. This is an extraordinary time. It is a difficult time, and to expect just about everything, whereas yes, for some of us productivity has increased because the kind of other work or responsibilities that we may have are, have not really been compromised. But for those who are struggling with any of these, like connectivity issues, or even this whole business of having to teach looking at a screen which may or may not have any faces and not be able to engage, apart from the connectivity and not being able to sort of link up with people, I think the bigger challenge is what expectation we have of ourselves. So I would just tell the faculty everywhere that cut yourself some slack. Do know that it's not going to be the same. So devise methods, because also see, there are a lot of interactions at Ashoka, I do know, and I'm sure in most universities. Us being a liberal arts university, we really look at a lot of, focuses a lot on critical thinking, coming up with creative solutions, sort of creative ways of looking at the problem. So I think that that's what we really need to, we look at applying here and we see, cut yourself some slack. Don't expect that because you have more time, it means your productivity